Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this August 28th meeting of the City of Gainesville General Policy Committee. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we have the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as printed and distributed. Is there a correction there?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right.
Passes unanimously with Commissioner Eastman walking in the door.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to talk about?
So at the end of today's meeting, we had to reschedule yesterday's virtual agenda review for next week's meeting. So we'll do that at the end when we finish all the other items for this meeting, as long as that's okay. We can do it under member comment if you like, but it's a thing we have to do while we're here together. It makes sense to do this rather than reschedule. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're on to the approval of minutes from the August 14, 2025 General Policy Committee meeting. The recommendation, the General Policy Committee approve the minutes from the August 14th meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as printed and distributed. I don't see any lights. Minutes, yes. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously with Commissioners Engel and Duncan Walker absent. And by the way, we had prior knowledge that they would be unable to make it today. We're not waiting on them to come in the door, so just heads up.
Mr. Mayor, we're on to our discussion items for the afternoon. 2025-648 bike lane traffic control devices with the recommendation. The General Policy Committee provide direction, if any, regarding modifications to the engineering, design, and construction manual, and provide modified direction, if any, regarding the bike lanes for the Southwest 6th Street and Northeast 9th Street projects.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is George Gadale. I'm the Traffic Operations Manager for the City of Gainesville. And as said, I will be discussing the bike lane traffic control devices. So back in June of this year, there was a discussion on some of the bike lane treatments, and we were asked to come back and provide a full presentation on that. So that is what I'm here today for. So as an engineer, we have to follow federal and state regulations, and these are three of the manuals that are adopted by FDOT: the Manual on Uniform Minimum Standards, the MUTCD, the Green Book, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, MUTCD, and on speed zoning. So these are just three that we have to follow. Those are all the standards. So traffic control devices. Traffic control devices they're there to warn, to regulate, and to guide traffic. You want to use as minimal as you needed. You don't want to overload the roads. You can distract drivers if you have too many things. You want them to be able to focus and evaluate all the situations as they're driving along. You only want to install devices when they're warranted, and there are plenty of extra devices or special emphasis that you can install when the situation warrants, just to give that extra emphasis to make sure that drivers pay attention. Oh, maybe I need to pay attention a little bit more. There's an extra hazard or something here. Our engineering design and construction manual, which is there's all kinds of topics in there, but specific to bike facilities. There is a discussion in there about the different types that you can use: conventional, buffered, or protected, and it's based on speed limit and your average daily traffic. Now, there's also a section of pavement markings, but there's no requirements, there's no guidance on how to use the green pavement markings that you see on bike lanes. It's just essentially you have to follow the MUTCD when it comes to markings. Now, the MUTCD does give some guidance and where green pavement markings are permitted. You can use them on the entire corridor of a bike lane. You can use them just under the bike lanes and the arrows. You can use them just under bike lanes and arrows as you approach and depart an intersection. And then you can also add some dotted lines as you approach an intersection, through intersections, just to give that extra guidance through an intersection.
If I might clarify, MUTCD is the set of guidelines that we've been discussing a lot outside this room for the last month, right?
Yes, it is. That and the Green Book.
Gotcha.
So the next slides are going to be a discussion on the different types of bike lanes and their costs. So you have your typical bike lane, you got an edge line and your bake symbol. Those are usually around $8,000 per mile for new, and then $10,000 to refresh. It costs a little bit more to refresh because you typically have to go back and remove some of the old. That way it sticks to the road a little better. As all markings typically have a 10-year life cycle, so you're going to see that a lot throughout the slides.
Let me pause you right there. Commissioner Chestnut.
And what is the width on that?
I mean, the minimum is 5, but the newer standards are 7.
7, okay, thank you.
That one looks more like a 5, but they've updated them. They prefer them to be 7 now.
Okay,
For
thank
that
you.
extra width. Absolutely. So buffer bike lanes, essentially, the only addition here is you're going to have some extra pavement down there. That way it gives a little more distance between the vehicles and that. So there's more pavement. So that cost is $20,000 for new per mile, and then $25,000 to refresh. Again, 10-year life cycle because it's just pavement markings. Now some upgraded ones, it would be more separated bike lanes. As you can see on pictures on the left are going to be your delineators, just like the plastic tube that's attached to the ground, and then the zippers are going to be on the right, just the extra. So those are upgraded right there. So when it comes to the costs of those, the flexible delineators are around $30,000 per mile, $35,000 to refresh, but those only have a 2 to 4 year life cycle. Those, they get hit very easily, they get knocked down. Our team has to go back and put them back up. So those are there. And then the zippers are $110,000 per mile new, and then $115,000, but much longer life cycle, 10 to 15 years plus.
So, just a quick question.
Sure.
If you use delineators spaced between the zippers, and the zippers / armadillos, those are the big rubber chunks.
Yes.
Okay. If you use both of those, that presumably would increase the life cycle significantly of the delineators as well.
I would say yes. I don't know if I've seen that treatment, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't do it. But yes, I mean, cars are going to hit it's usually cars are hitting them because they're driving too far over and they knock them over. But if you have the zippers, that does provide that extra.
Right.
You're less likely to drive over all the zippers and then also hit the delineators, hopefully.
Yeah.
So yes, I would agree with that.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Eastman?
No,
Yes.
it's fine. I will say, how much of these, we have in our engineering design and construction manual, we reference the NACTO standards for urban bikeways. Have we looked into what, like, their recommendations in terms of, the flexible delineators, the zippers, the armadillos, like what their structure that they recommend for this?
You're asking what they recommend?
Like, I mean, have we looked at kind of what the standard is in terms of NACTO and that sort of work?
I'm not sure of that one, Brian. Do you know if we've looked into this? No, okay, we have not.
Okay. I guess when I am in a lot of other cities, I'm seeing kind of what the mayor alluded to, which is where you're separating out the armadillos from the delineators. And I'll say that NACTO just came out with their new urban bikeway guide, where they said that that mixing those two things achieves more comfort than a flexible delineator post alone, while still requiring little to no construction. It seems like that is a structure that they're recommending, and that I'm seeing a lot on the ground, at least in other jurisdictions.
Brian Singleton, Special Advisor for Infrastructure. I have not read the new NACO guide yet. I will say that when I have read a lot of the NACO guidance in the past, not all of it aligns with the regulations in Florida, so it is hard to adopt that verbatim. I will also say that there is the potential to increase the life of a delineator by putting them in between, but it depending on the spacing, it is unlikely if you put it on top of the armadillo or the zipper. I mean, it's going to get broken and come off as well. So when we were putting these together, as George will get to a little bit more, we're mainly looking at what are our resources to maintain these devices. The MUTCD has requirements on how they must be maintained and the retroreflectivity of them, and we simply do not have the resources to keep up.
That makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Now, a protected bike lane, these are gonna be your much more, as you can see in here, these are very urban areas, much more denser surrounding development. They can run they can run greater than $400,000 per mile, so these are definitely the higher end ones. The markings, again, 10-year life. Concrete has about a 15-year life or more.
And where are those located in Gainesville?
I don't think we have any of those.
We don't have any true protected, separated bike lanes. I mean, we have off systems. If I'm not missing any, y'all might be able to help me with that. But
Commissioner.
It may not meet, Commissioner, it may not meet this specific criteria, but you do have a couple of things that are very much like that in College Park in there. But again, I don't know if it meets the standard.
So they're more, if you back up a slide. That, yeah.
Okay.
On campus, there's one. I forget which street exactly, but there's one concrete separated bike lane that's in there.
so, and when we say protected, we mean like something physical that is really hard for a car to get around. What we have to be conscious about in any type of this situation is the visibility of the bicycles on the other side of whatever the protective measure is. So there are some studies out there that where you have like the parking lane and then the bike lane, on some of those driveways, it gets harder to see those bicyclists as they come down. And sometimes if you're making a turn off of the facility, you might miss a bike that might be crossing a driveway or a side street.
And now the green markings. So as I discussed earlier, you can run them down the entire bike lane or just do them under the symbols. If you do them under the symbols, it's approximately $15,000 per mile new, $17,500 to refresh. Again, 10-year life. If you do them continuously on the entire lane, you're looking at $300,000 for a new, $400,000 to refresh.
If I could, just for context, can you tell me about what, and I know there are different kinds of asphalt, but about what a mile of an asphalt lane costs? Just so we can compare, because this can seem $100,000 a mile, it can seem like a lot of money, but I don't know how that compares to.
Last time I looked at standard 2-lane road resurfacing, mill and resurface, mill and fill will run you in the $500,000 a mile range.
Okay, thank you. And one other question here, Commissioner Willets.
When we're talking about all these prices, because on the previous slide we had protected bike lanes, which are a double lane, a two-way, are all of these just per mile on one side of road, or is it is it bike lanes on both sides? What are we using here for our standard to understand this?
It is the per mile cost on both sides of the roadway.
So for like 1 mile stretch of road, if we had basic bike lanes, it's both sides that we're quoting here. And then for protected, is it both sides, or is this more of a one or the other, either both sides or one of these double two ways?
The 400 a mile is basically just that concrete separator cost. Obviously, if you were to do a parking lane, it wouldn't be that significant of a cost.
Okay, thank you.
And because there's not the actual infrastructure other than the width of the parking lane.
Got it, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
So our current public works traffic signs and markings section is responsible for 400 miles of roadway. They also assist in some of the city parking lots. They have 5 full-time employees, a crew leader, and 4 maintenance workers. The adopted FY25 materials and admin budget was $133,518. Proposed for 26 is $119,000. So this goes along with what Brian was saying earlier. To be the budget to maintain the extra ones is where there could be some concern. So our recommendation for traffic control devices, if for separated bike lanes, utilizing the zippers as opposed to delineators, lower life cycle costs. As I said before, the zippers will last 10, 15 years or more. Larger vehicles can straddle them. They're less susceptible to be torn out of the ground, which is the delineators are all the time. It looks a lot nicer, definitely, with the zippers. For the green paint, we're recommending that that's a case-by-case basis. Each project will look at it on its own and decide to go from there what we think makes the most sense. For the engineering design construction manual, we are not making any recommendations for adjusting the marking requirements. Again, case-by-case basis. If the commission would like to add some requirements, we do want to add some context based on functional classification, traffic volumes, and the surrounding density of the development. So we have two pending projects right now where we're going to be adding the bike lanes. The Southwest 6th Street project between Southwest 16th Ave and Southwest Depot. That's construction is imminent on that. That one's just continuing to turn the outside lane into parking and into bike lanes. Where we can, they're going to be 6.5-foot wide bike lanes. The amount of on-street parking does prohibit zippers in this project, and we don't believe that a green paint is warranted for that project. The Northeast 9th Street between University Ave and Northeast 23rd, expected to go to construction in 26. 5-foot bike lane separated with zippers. There is a lot of density with the driveway and side streets, so it does make it a little bit more difficult. And again, green paint's not warranted for this based on volumes and the density. So our Public Works' recommendation to the commission is to discuss regulations regarding bike lane traffic control devices, provide direction, if any, regarding modifications to the EDCM, and provide any modified direction for the two ongoing projects. Public Works staff does not recommend any recommendations, though, to the EDCM or to changing the scope of the two construction projects upcoming. And that concludes.
We'll have a few questions here, so hang with us for a moment.
Absolutely.
Mr. Book.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, Mr. Mayor, you can kind of conclude your
Yep,
presentation.
that is it.
Just 2 or 3 questions on the bike lanes and costs. We have a standard bike lane with essentially $8,000 a mile. And then when we buffer it with, I think, just an additional line, we increase the cost by 2.5 times. And I wondered why that was.
I mean, so there's some, as you can see, some of them do have the middle, like the hatching in the middle. So it can add extra costs for those as well.
Yeah, and so we're adding a line plus the crosshatch marks. I mean, seems like an awfully big increase for that amount of paint. Obviously, that's not my area of expertise, but so I wondered about that one in particular, that cost increase.
It's very labor intensive to come and do that kind of handwork. The crews have to come down, space it all out, cut all the thermoplastic, set it down, or clean the road, set it down, heat it up with a blowtorch, and just continue on down the road like that. Typically, the spacing of those cross hatches, I believe, is about every 40 feet or something like that. So it's very labor extensive.
Thank you. So staff and resource intensiveness is really what eats up the cost. I appreciate it. The second one was, you've talked a lot about standards. We have different best practices. We have different state and federal regulations. And really the question is what we have currently in our ordinances and our policies, do we believe they're in line with all those, or are there some that we need to make sure that we're in compliance and make that motion to get us there? I mean, we're talking about, you have a few on the first few slides. We have some standards that don't necessarily align with state and federal law. You have best practices. My question is, what are the actual codified regulations, ordinances, and statutes? Are we in compliance with those, or is there something that we need to clean up?
So, like George alluded to, we're legally bound by the Green Book, the MUTCD, and the Florida Speed Zoning Manual. All of our regulations fully comply with those all of our standards comply with those regulations. I think it's Chapter 2 of the EDCM lists other references as guidance. We look at those guidances on a case-by-case basis, and we adhere to them where feasible. There is some language throughout the MUTCD that does explicitly speak to some of those guidances in certain sections, and we do apply those in those sections. I will say the EDCM is primarily a supplement to the Land Development Code for land development applications, whether it's the city or a private developer. When we're doing our roadway projects, we typically don't have the flexibility, as with new construction, to fully adhere to what's laid out in the EDCM without doing a full roadway reconstruction. It is a lot more cost effective to resurface a roadway and implement what we can than to try to reconstruct a roadway, move curbs, and add all the elements by right of way, change stormwater. You just increase the cost exponentially. So we're trying to, when we do these projects, we're trying to minimize cost, implement as much as we can, but touch as many roadways as possible with our limited funding.
So I think essentially what you're telling me, Director, is we're in compliance with everything that we have that is codified. Is there any regulations or best practices that from a standpoint of staff you would want direction on and you would want codified? Or are you comfortable making those decisions or bringing them back when we need to make decisions on specific segments of roadways or multimodal travel and things like that?
Staff isn't making any recommendations to modify any of our current regulations at this time.
All right, thank you. The last question is just on the budget slide. Outside of grants or external funding sources, essentially through September 30th, we have 133,000, and for the next fiscal year, we got 120,000.
Correct. The delta in that is we moved some of the telephone expenses to a different cost center. So we are carrying the same amount of materials and supplies forward. So I just wanted to clarify that delta in those two numbers. But correct, when we get grants, when we have capital project funds, that's when we're able to implement most of these things. We typically do not do this kind of work with that maintenance operating budget. That O&M budget covers, complying with MUTCD as far as retroreflectivity of our, or trying to, with our striping, signs that get hit, knocked down, vandalized, once they wore out at the end of their 7-year cycle, just regular replacements and maintenance.
All right, thank you. All of the information that you've provided for recommendations and the existing projects that we have, I'm very comfortable with, and I thank you for the presentation, especially Mr. Manager. Appreciate it, because this is a lot of information, a lot of different options. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. Commissioner Willis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Southwest 6th Street project, when did we fund this project? I know we had moved, about 2 years ago, we moved funds from Southwest 6th to Northwest 8th, and I'm trying to remember when we came back and filled in the funds for this project.
Chase, if you remember specifically, it was within the last year through a budget amendment. We moved the Vision Zero funds away from the project, but then we funded it back with gas tax.
Got it, okay. Thank you, gas tax. And then, so if because our standards require a protected facility on roads that are 25 miles an hour that have over 6,000, does Southwest 6th Street have more than, 6,000, not per hour, 6,000 per day traffic? Where are we at on Southwest 6th Street right now on traffic?
If I pull the data correctly from the online web map, it's about, I think, 9,800 ADT.
Okay. If we reduce the posted speed to 25, would we be required in this update to build a protected facility?
Yes, our guidance recommends a protected facility. With adding the on-street parking, it is a challenge in this location. What we did with this particular segment is continue the cross-section south.
Will we be adjusting the speed limit on this? Because I think the current is, driving every day, I should know this, I'm pretty sure it's 35, maybe 30. when we do this, because if we're taking away a lane, will we be looking to potentially reduce the posted speed limit to 25?
We can, per statute, change the speed limit to 30. Chase, if you know what the speed limit is, help me out.
It's either 30 or 35, and I can't remember, sorry.
I would assume it's posted at 30, and not 35. To go down to 25, per the speed zoning manual that I referenced earlier, it will require a speed study, with the actual speeds, to justify reducing the speed limit.
Okay. It's always been a little weird in the past 10 years or so on that road, because it's high, it looks like it's 4 lanes, it looks like it can handle a lot of traffic, and some people do very speedily on that road, but it also backs up traffic trying to get into PK Young. And can you just remind me what we're doing about that situation with the backup traffic on PK Young when we reduce that, on that section?
Yes, so there will be a dedicated northbound left turn lane into PK Young, and there will be a dedicated southbound right turn lane into PK Young, with plenty of space for afternoon pickup for vehicles to queue without having to sit in the roadway or cross the yellow line or anything like that.
So right there wouldn't be parking spaces right there on that kind of that northwestern portion of 6th.
Correct, and we
Okay.
met with Dr. Carey with PK Young, and we met with Chief Knowles at UPD and reviewed the plans with them, and they are looking forward to the new layout.
Okay, and the only other question I just had was, did we have any green paint at all planned for the northeast 9th at any, or were we just going to do the white bike, not Shero, but those markers within the lanes?
There is no plans to place green paint on Northeast 9th Street at this time.
Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Willett. Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for going over all this. I was curious, well, for one, can you talk to me about the decision making here? Because we have a transportation department, and we have Vision Zero folks, and we have folks that kind of review this, and then we also have Public Works. I mean, how does the decision as to how to design these roadways? Can you walk us through that process and what should go where?
Yes, so we coordinate directly with our transportation department on how to lay out these roadways. We look at all the options. We sit down and brainstorm and look at all the contraindications and costs, and we come up with a joint recommendation. The Southwest 6th Street project that was originally designed by the transportation department, there were some design errors in the plan set that did not align with regulations. So the employee that designed it was no longer working with the city, so Public Works then redesigned it in-house to ensure that it complied with all the regulations. But it's roughly the same design that transportation originally
Right.
planned out. And it, like I indicated earlier, it is a continuation of the cross-section to the north.
Right. Do you guys take a look? I mean, we see in numbers up here about cost per mile. Do we look at some of these reduction in overall crash statistics, other things? I mean, I understand you have to balance all this stuff out about how does it flow with the rest of the roadway? What are the overall costs to keep it to upkeep it into the future? But how do you sort of weigh out all of these decisions, based on safety versus cost and all of that?
It's really more of a judgment call. We don't run any specific benefit cost analyses at this time. It is something that we have the capability to do. It can be quite time extensive to go through. So depending on the context of the facility, that's when we make a decision as to if we want to run the full benefit cost reports and analyses.
Do you see any going back to the green paint? Do you see? Are there any roadways so far as we've come forward with this? I think you guys have not recommended green paint. I think we went back and we put green paint into an existing roadway. I mean, do you see any future where transportation and public works would be recommending green paint on specific roadways, or has it just been that the context specifically has not been for the ones we've looked at?
So the projects that have been implemented in the campus area, Midtown area, the 10th and 12th one-way pairs that will be breaking ground hopefully within the next quarter, that does have green paint on it. 10th and 12th are much more densely populated. There's a lot more bike traffic on those roadways. So we do recommend green paint in that context. When we start getting out into more of the suburban areas where we don't have as high bike volumes, we do not recommend doing that kind of treatment in those contexts.
Okay. Just to give everyone a little bit of some numbers that I was able to find for these, they do look at crash reduction factors overall for for all the things that they've talked about in here. And so they mentioned standard bike lanes about $10,000 per mile. From what I can tell from an Oregon Department of Transportation report, that reduces crashes overall by about 36%. Buffered bike lanes go up in price, but that by about $20,000 per mile. That's a 47% reduction in bicycle crashes. And then separated bike lanes like delineators, zippers, reduce overall bicycle crashes by 59%. And so I do think it's important that we keep all of the Vision Zero work in mind, and making sure that folks can get around safely, as well as the overall, making sure that we can fund these, keep them up to date going forward. So thank you. I probably have a few more questions, but I'll let everyone else go around first. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Chestnut.
Thank you very much. This is very enlightening for the public. I don't think anyone realized how expensive these markings are. Would you go to Northeast 9th and just explain to me again what you're going to be doing there? It's all zippers?
Yes, so we will be resurfacing the roadway where's it at? The outside parking lane will be removed so that we can get the 5-foot bike lanes in on both sides of the roadway. And then zippers will be placed along the edge of the travel lane for a separated bike lane.
Is that the only option you have?
Delineators could be utilized, green paint could be utilized. We looked, when we gave the presentation
In July?
in July, we presented 4 different options. One was to keep the cross-section the way it was. I forget what the second one was, honestly. The third one is what was selected, and then the fourth one was a protected cycle track.
Okay. All right, thank you. I've just had some experience with zippers, and it's not a pleasant experience.
I will say that for 9th Street, the zippers have been laid out in a much better way than what was implemented on 8th Avenue.
Okay.
The turning radii of vehicles coming in and out of driveways and side streets were taken into account. So there will be less potential for them to be hit.
I see. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chestnut. So I'm going to have a couple of comments here, and then we'll go to public, and then we'll come back up here for any further discussion. But you all are not asking for direction today necessarily, correct?
Correct. We do
You're not
not have
asking
any
for
staff
motion.
recommendation.
Okay. But you're not asking for us to tell you something today?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
I will say that if there is a desire to do anything different on either one of the projects, we need to know now. We are ready to break ground on Southwest 6th Street, and we will be getting ready to bid 9th Street in October.
Okay. So I have a number of things to add. First of which is that every time it it feels like we should always be able to go make changes right up until the last second until stuff starts to happen. But the truth is, when we give direction, as we did on 9th Street more than a year ago, that sets the wheels in motion and money gets spent. Resources get spent. And when we change our mind, we have then said, it's okay that we spent those resources, they're gone. And we start over. There is a cost to that. There's an efficiency to that. We've got to start to be careful. We've just got to be careful about when we say this is what we want you to do, staff, meaning this is what we want you to do. Not this is what we want you to do, but we're going to be back in a few months with a different idea. Because it is technically possible for this commission to change its mind. No matter who sits up here, we can make changes, even after things get started. But that is expensive. That is very, very expensive. And I really want to just caution us to be careful about when you ask us the first time. That's the time for us to tell you what we want. So, having said that, we didn't talk. We talked a little bit about, but not much about safety, which I think is the driving concern. Number one is safety. Number two is how fast, how efficiently do we get everybody through the streets, whether they're driving or riding a bicycle or walking or whatever they're doing. And then we figure out, okay, how much of that can we pay for? How many of these changes can we make within the budgets that are before us, which include a variety of things, including but not limited to the annual general fund that you've discussed here, but also 9th Street is funded out of street stations and strong foundations, and we've got a number of sources on Southwest 6th Street. There are a variety of capital sources that we can draw from, and all those are limited as well, certainly. I would say that while we absolutely must meet federal and state guidelines, we cannot not meet federal and state guidelines. Cities across the nation and counties across the nation use those as a baseline. And then if we want to do more than that, but don't violate those guidelines, we can do more than that. Florida has an embarrassingly bad safety record nationally. I mean, we are not a good place to be on a road, whether you're a driver or a cyclist or a pedestrian. We should not say we met Florida guideline, that's good enough. It's not good enough. For the last decade or so, we have not chosen to end where Florida said this is good enough. We have gone beyond that because we committed to Vision Zero. As part of that commission, that commitment to Vision Zero, in 2021, 12 people, pedestrians or cyclists, died on our streets. That's about the year that you saw re-engineering of our streets for safety really come into play after years of talking about it. Really started to work then. Went from 12 to in 2022, 10, 2023, 7, 2024, 4, and so far this year, 2 pedestrians and cyclists. Changing the engineering works. It saves lives. It saves injuries, not just for pedestrians and cyclists, but also for, as we learned last week from GPD, for drivers as well, occupants of vehicles. It is not cheap, but human lives should not be cheap. And we have made these commitments over time, and I really want us to be careful that seeing the numbers go down, we don't say we've solved the problem, we can stop spending. Because that will see those numbers rise. Streets like Southwest 6th Street, there are lots of children for many reasons on that street. There are lots of college students on that street, not in cars, walking or cycling. We need to make sure that we're aware of that. I don't cycle. I do walk quite a bit, but I don't cycle. Most of my transportation is done on behind the wheel, frankly. So I don't always see what matters to cyclists. I have a pretty good idea of pedestrians because I very intentionally do a fair bit of walking on our paths for that reason and because I like it. Another consideration for us is that as we grow as a city, as we add numbers in this community, and we will continue to add numbers, I'll promise you that. Over the last, 10 years, we've added about 15,000 people to this community. Thank goodness they're not all driving. Because if they were all driving, it would take us a lot longer to get where we're going. Now, if you're on the other side of 43rd Street, it takes a long time anyway. But on the east side of 43rd Street, it tends to be a pretty good commute in this community. We want to keep it that way. We want to provide opportunities for people to catch the bus, which we've curtailed recently. Well, we want people to be able to walk. We want people to be able to cycle in addition to driving. If everybody drives where they're going, we're going to find ourselves in gridlock the way Jacksonville or Orlando are, and we don't want to be there. Now, we're not going to have 500,000 people here overnight, but if you add another 10,000 in the next 2 years, you're going to notice a difference in your commute. And the only way we can fix that and allay some of that is by making sure there are bus opportunities and cycling opportunities for people who want to do those things. If we don't do that, then don't come here and complain about how long it takes to get places, because that is a very real thing. We have to manage that and we have to think toward it instead of just saying, I don't want to do it right now. If we don't do it as we go, we will be sorry later. And we can see the results of that in Western Alachua County, where 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the county commission did not plan for growth, and that's why it takes forever to get anywhere at rush hour on that side of the community. All of that said, I don't necessarily have anything to add to this, but I really it's important that we get all that out there because it is about saving lives and it is about planning for the future of this community and the ease of transportation in this community. Even if you don't ever plan to ride a bike, you need to make space for people who do ride bikes because that means they're not behind a wheel when you're trying to get where you want to go. All that said, Madam Manager or Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Joshua Nay.
Welcome, Mr. Knapp.
Sorry, I'm not wearing shorts today.
It's all good. I appreciate it.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. My name is Joshua Nay. I've lived in East Gainesville for 31 years. 20 of those years have been on Northeast 9th Street, directly on the street, right across the street from Howard Bishop. I have twin 14-year-olds and an 11-year-old. They're attending Eastside Public Schools, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to talk about bike lanes, like specifically, but I almost don't call them bike lanes. I call them mobility lanes because I live on Northeast 9th Street. People in wheelchairs use them because when you're on a sidewalk, you've got routes, you've got other things, you've got driveways, and you're going up and down. I see people in wheelchairs using them all the time. First, safety. Gainesville has adopted a Vision Zero policy committing to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries, but design matters. I asked staff to provide data on how different types of bike infrastructure, especially protected bike lanes, save lives, reduce crashes, and make streets safer for all users. This infrastructure is not just about cyclists, as I said. It's about kids, seniors, and anyone who wants safe alternatives to driving. We're supposed to be committed to all ages and abilities using these lanes. It shouldn't just be confident white guys like myself. It should be everybody. It's one of the things that I've spoken about in the past. I think of bike lanes as mobility lanes already down here. Well, skip that. I also request staff share how protected bike lanes support mode shift, increasing bike rates, and reduce congestion, especially as we aim for a more sustainable, accessible city. Other cities are using these low-cost tools like zippers. I know these prices are pretty high. These materials are inexpensive, scalable, and effective. I urge the city to consider that as part of the solution, not only for this project, but citywide. Regarding 6th Street specifically, FDOT reports 12,000 daily vehicles, although I think we heard the number 9,000, which far exceeds the threshold where both NATCO and our engineering, design, and construction manual recommend protected bike lanes. The proposed 11-foot travel lanes encourage speed greater than the posted 35 mile per hour. Reducing them to 10 aligns with NATCO guidelines and helps calm traffic to safer 25 to 30 miles per hour. The current design places a buffer between the sidewalk and the bike lane, leaving cyclists exposed to traffic. You know, I bike 6th Street. Most of the time, there's a bike lane there on the north of Depot, and I'm just going to use the shared area over there because there's a multi-use trail. Why would I be in traffic where cars can, drive into me? It's just like we need to protect, I'm sorry, my brain. This should be reversed. Bike lanes should run adjacent to sidewalks with physical protection like parked cars, delineators, or armadillos separating bikes from vehicles. Right now, the design doesn't meet NATCO or our own standards, and it falls short of Vision Zero. We can do better. Finally, broader policy recommendations. Please update our engineering design manual to require NATCO compliant standards. Alachua County is already modernizing theirs. I'm already over.
Thank you, Mr. Nay.
Adrian Hayes Santos.
Welcome, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. I'm Adrian Hayes Santos. First, I want to emphasize safety. Different types of bike infrastructure save lives and prevent serious injuries. Gainesville's adopted a Vision Zero policy, but to achieve it, we need to build streets that actually protect people. I ask that you not only request information about the safety of bike lanes and different types of bike infrastructure, but also how you reduce congestion, creating safe routes for all ages and abilities. That's how we should be designing our streets. So no matter how old you are, or what your abilities are, you can use our streets. Other cities have also shown that zippers and armadillos combined with flexible delineators are a cost-effective and quick way to provide protected bike lanes. And Gainesville should evaluate this option and include it in future conversations. On Southwest 6th Street, the need is urgent. FDOT, well, I've heard here 9,000. FDOT was reporting 12,000, which is double the 6,000 threshold where both NACTO, the National Association of City Transportation Officials, which is the standard for bike lane and modern street design in the United States, and the city's own engineering design construction manual call for protected bike lanes having some kind of protection. Either that's armadillos, that's delineators, that's parked cars. Yet, the current design leaves riders directly next to traffic. The proposed lane widths of 11 feet induce traffic at 35 miles per hour. 10-foot bike lanes, or 10-foot travel lanes, which are consistent with NACTO standards, would calm speeds to 25 to 30. This helps reduce the amount of police we need out there actually enforcing the laws because the roads are designed to go the speed we want. The proposed buffer currently is between the sidewalk and the bike lane, and it puts the bike lane directly next to traffic. We should swap that and put the bike lanes next to the sidewalk, and then have a buffer between parked cars either between, or buffer between the road and the bike. And then when cars don't provide protection, adding the armadillos or flexible delineators can help at a low cost provide that safety. As designed, Southwest 6th Street project does not align with our EDCM, NACTO standards, or Vision Zero policies. Finally, on a broader policy, I think we should update our EDCM. I think we should look to ensuring that it's following NACTO standards. Also, Alachua County is updating their land development code and is really creating very clear kind of street design standards as well, which I think would help alleviate a lot of these conversations that are happening. And most importantly, I think that the city should join NACTO. Membership would give access to technical expertise and peer city guidance. Other Florida cities like Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, St. Pete, Miami-Dade, Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Boca Raton are already members and are using these standards for street designs. Gainesville should not be left behind. In short, we have the tools, the standards, and the proven strategies. What we need is a will to align our design with Vision Zero and make Gainesville a city where biking is safe, practical, and accessible for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Young.
Welcome, Ms. Young.
Hi, my name is Kristen Young. I did not prepare a speech, but I have been the Vice President of Gainesville Citizens for Active Transportation for a number of years now, so I'm well-versed in bicycle matters. I'll repeat a statistic that I said at the MDPO the other day, in that cities with the highest level of protected bike lanes had 44% fewer fatalities and serious injuries, or 50% fewer serious injuries overall for all road users. So we're talking about bike lanes, but and the bicyclists particularly, but these the safety infrastructure also reduces fatalities and injuries for people in cars, people walking, all sorts of users. And I think the most important thing I can say is, which bike lane would you want to be in? Would you want your children to be in? Your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, your neighbors? Which ones would you be comfortable biking in? Because if you're not comfortable, think of all the tens of thousands of people that use these bike lanes and how they're experiencing. I'm concerned that the conversation today was all about numbers, costs, monetary costs, and that the Vision Zero and climate action plan that the City Commission has adopted was not well discussed. I understand the different departments have different expertise, but we should be discussing those things as the mayor had before. So I request that staff provide safety information for these different parts of infrastructure along with the costs and how they prevent deaths and serious injury, how enhanced lanes increase usage rates of bicyclists and other users, and how they meet the city's climate goals and reduce congestion. There is a cost associated with congestion. There's a cost associated with more cars on the road. If you get more people walking and biking that live close to the university and a little bit further out, we don't have to do expensive cart lanes. I reiterate the comments about Sixth. You're not meeting your own standards on the way Sixth is being proposed as designed. Paint is not protection. Barriers are. So I request that designs follow the NACTA standards and also the city's own engineering standards. The city commission had directed, made a direction before about putting physical barriers on streets based on their speed and average daily use. I haven't seen that happen. I know north of Main has been repaved, and also in front of the health department, I don't see any delineators there. So I'm wondering how all the many directions this city commission has given on these things, how much they're being followed. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Corey Brunson.
Welcome, Mr. Brunson.
Thank you. My name is Corey Brunson. I just moved immediately west of 43rd Street, and I don't find it especially convenient to bike ride into the city center, so I want to offer a bit of a correction there from my perspective. I'm glad that most, if not all, bicycle infrastructure types are under consideration, but as others have said, I think focusing exclusively on costs, even at an early stage, is short-sighted. For one thing, savings due to one versus another type of bike infrastructure exist at the margins of the overall transportation budget, and will for the duration of our lifetimes at least. I took a look at some of the, may I ask for a?
You should put it on that white thing there.
I just looked at some data this morning from FDOT, which concerns a variety of transportation infrastructure options. On the left, rural construction expansion and through lane, construction and expansion of both 2 lanes, the rural is 1. Urban, of those 3 equivalents. And then what I've called parallel, bicycle lanes and multi-use trails. The multi-use trail cost that they ascribe, this is for District 3, not District 2, but it's about the same as what staff assessed a protected bike lane to be. And I think it's worth emphasizing not only just how small an amount this is relative to the equivalent motor vehicle costs, but how little bicycle infrastructure there is relative to motor vehicle infrastructure. But of course, a lot more numbers, if they're going to be considered, need to be considered, even if they can't be very precisely known. The current miles of roadway versus bicycle infrastructure requiring upkeep and the cost of that upkeep. More importantly, as several have mentioned, and I appreciate, lives and limbs are at stake, injury and death rates due to different kinds of bicycle infrastructure, as well as what kinds of infrastructure allow cyclists and other micro-mobility transiteers to do their work and make their commutes more efficiently and more healthily without breathing in fumes, without putting themselves in very circuitous routes. And then finally, whereas we can think of the first order effects as the cost to the city, the second order effects as the lives, hospitalization, health, convenience, productivity, there's a third order effect in that having better bicycle infrastructure incentivizes more people to bicycle or to use or micromobility or other forms of transportation. Most people aren't committed drivers any more than most cyclists are committed cyclists. People take the mode of transportation that is most convenient for them. And if we make cycling more convenient, a lot more people will adopt it, thereby making motor vehicle traffic less and motor vehicle transportation a lot more convenient and safe for drivers as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Matthew Hurst.
Welcome, Mr. Hurst.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Matthew Hurst. I've heard a lot of good discussion today about this topic. A long time ago, I was on the CAC to the MTPO, and I used to go to a lot of county commission meetings on transportation areas. And one of the hurdles they had maybe 20 years ago was there was a mindset among their public works department that they had to follow the guidelines from the FDOT Green Book to the letter. And a lot of their highway engineers at that time, their background was in designing high-speed state highways. And so it was kind of hard to downscale that to a city or county collector road. You all mentioned, or one of the speakers mentioned earlier, the travel lanes. We used to go back and forth on the width of the travel lanes because we wanted to keep them at 10 feet, and that's what they were. They want 11 or 12. So that's, I think it's good to remember to have flexibility, that you all are policymakers. You have to weigh a lot of competing concerns, and you may weigh them differently than somebody who designs high-speed state roads. So I think that's a good discussion. I like the direction things are heading, and I think flexibility is the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst.
Our last speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Willits.
So we talked a little bit about Southwest 6th Street. It is, according to FDOT Open Data Hub, it is 35 miles an hour between 16th and Depot. I think we should definitely go to 30 miles per hour on that once this is redesigned and we no longer have 4 lanes of through traffic. But I still think that good or bad, the way we're designing that really should be a 25 mile an hour road because we're going to have on-street parking right next to it. But 30 at least would align it with 6th Street from Depot all the way to University is already, when that was reconstructed years ago, that was down to 30 miles per hour. So I hope we will be able to go at least 30 miles an hour to have that consistency. When we talked about Northeast 9th previously, I was skeptical of the 11-foot travel lanes there. I am now also skeptical of the 11-foot travel lanes on Southwest 6th because the width just encourages speeding. And I've seen it down on Southwest 6th. I've seen it everywhere. There's the wider lanes. People just speed, and it's not just me. The data supports it. The researchers, the psychologists who say the wider the lanes, people go real fast. Whether that is a 10 or 10.5-foot lane that will encourage people to go slower, I definitely would support those kind of things. I know that we're not looking at like the actual map of Southwest 6th. I don't remember having seen that map. I was reminded that we moved some money around to fund it, but I know that I haven't seen that map recently, so I'll have to look at that to get a little better sense. I like there have been some suggestions that I really agree with, the idea that we have to get a little more specific about when we talk about protected bike lanes, because sometimes in our conversations, staff has said things like buffered or separated, and we think we're voting on one thing, and I don't know that everyone's clear on what we're voting on, because a form, what we call protected, is it protected by parking? Is it protected by delineators or these armadillos? I like the word armadillo better than zipper. No one knows what a zipper is, but armadillo people can imagine. If you're from the South, you may have run over one before, or seen it on the road. I like the armadillos, that language better. I just really, I want us to follow NACTO standards more, even though that is not the national, binding standard for all these things. Of course, we have to follow MTCD and the Florida's Green Book, but outside of that, the real, larger idea of how transportation planners, particularly city transportation planners, are looking at their cities. NACTO provides a lot of resources. I didn't realize we weren't a member of NACTO as a city. We probably should do that. I think we get some benefit out of that. So I think that's all I had. Let me double check here my notes. But the Southwest 6, it's going to be hard no matter what, because we got school on one side, we have another side that was very little on. If on that side it made more sense to have the bike lane up against the curb and instead have a line of cars, But again, I haven't seen the exact plans, or at least definitely not recently. But I do know that street, and to the mayor's point, there are children on that street frequently, college students, people, because there's a grocery, not open right now, but the grocery store down there. So people in all of kind of the Sorority Row area and Porters, they use that as a travel way to get down to get their groceries, go down to a filling station, or even there's a laundromat down there as well. So people use it on bikes, and overall, we do have to plan for the future. And if anyone thinks the future involves a smaller share of traffic being by bike, I think they're wrong. Electric bicycles are changing the math. Commissioner Eastman has experience on one, and I'm sure he when he's riding, he sees everyone else on electrics. But it's really changing the math. More and more people, and if not even on a full bicycle, on the little electric scooters, it is changing faster than we can change our roads. But I think we need to be planning for that future that looks a lot more like personal electric transportation as opposed to a full, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 pound car. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Willets. Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, and I agree. I think, Mr. Mayor, you said it, I think, very well, is that the city continues to grow, more people continue to move here, and obviously if you keep your transportation system and you freeze it in amber, you're just going to get more and more and more traffic, more and more slowdowns. That's why, we've talked about, some of the costs up here. I'll point out that we just went through a long-range transportation plan with our MTPO, where we reviewed every single option that we had in order to try to reduce overall traffic and slowdowns within our city. And far and away, the cheapest thing to do is to increase transit service and to spend money on safer bicycle infrastructure that people can get around safely on their bikes. The cost of building a new road is exorbitant. I mean, in the back of our long-range transportation plan, there was a 0.46 mile extension of Southwest 47th Avenue, which was $7.4 million. About the same thing for Northeast 15th. They had a buffered bike lane in there. It was $33,000 for about the same amount of space. It's about 20 times the cost to just get a new road put in. As we could do this all day long and save and not spend anywhere near the amount of money that it would cost for us to build, the 60-second extension that we just did. Roads are very, very expensive. Transportation is expensive, and I think we are all fooling ourselves. We think that we're going to be able to just keep everything exactly the same. We have to spend money where it is, and outside experts who have come in and reviewed it have found that safer bicycle infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure is the best bang that we get for our buck in terms of reducing our overall traffic. But I did want to go back to Southwest 6th Street because we got some questions on some very specific design. And I heard from Mr. Singleton that if we wanted to make changes to that, now's the time to do that. Singleton, can you explain why the buffer is why is the buffer from the cyclist to the sidewalk as opposed to the cyclist against the cars? Right.
So when the design was implemented, essentially just continuing the cross-section south, and to keep the direction of travel for the bicyclists as linear as possible. Is there the potential to change the deflection on the bicycle traffic and flip as need be? Yes, there is the potential to do that. Could the parking lane be floating and have the entire thing up against the sidewalk? Yes, we could do that too. But we would just have to go through that redesign process.
What does that look like for you guys? What would that mean?
Chase, help me out. How long do you think it would take to redesign it? But whatever we do to redesign it, it's going to push something else off in schedule, because our staff is fully committed on delivering projects.
Good afternoon. Chase Knight, Supervising Engineer for Development Review and Capital Projects. For that redesign, we would estimate probably between 3 to 4 months.
Oh. Okay. I mean, when I was looking at the backup of the design, I understand wanting, as a car driver, I understand why you would want to keep as straight of a line as possible while you're going from point A to point B. In a car, you're going, 35, 40 miles per hour, why that would make sense. From a cyclist perspective, what you want is as much separation from a speeding 2-ton car as possible. And then if you have to curve a little bit this way when a right-hand turn lane comes in, that seems to me to be a much, that to me does not seem like as big of a deal. Like what you want to prioritize as much as possible is separation from cars and traffic. So I'm in favor. I'm happy to make a motion to ask you all to, if it's a 3 or 4 month delay, to redesign Southwest 6 to include those buffered bike lanes and provide physical protection for cyclists, including use of the parking protected bike lanes where feasible. Does that sound like that's clear enough? Okay.
Is there a second on that?
Second, because I want to fully understand what someone talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Broadcast, can you pull up the plans for 6th Street, please?
And will, Mr. Singleton, do you anticipate that moving 6th Street forward would slow down 9th Street?
No, it would not. 9th Street is being handled by a consultant, so it would just be all our in-house work that would be impacted.
And do we know, just off the top of your head, when 9th Street shovel in the ground is likely to be?
It should be spring, March timeframe of next year, as long as bids come back in a reasonable number.
Okay.
And while we're bringing this up, someone mentioned transportation staff or planners doing everything by Green Book standards or trying to follow highway standards. I will say that, just talking with Brian Singleton, talking with our staff, I think you guys do a good job with flexibility. I may not agree with the exact design of Southwest 6 at the moment, but I'll say that I think our staff has done a really tremendous job of knowing what context makes sense, where it does not make sense, and then trying to find ways to work around all that. Traffic engineers have a very different set of things that they have to work within, and I think I think historically that has been true with traffic engineers. I think we have a really great team here that's been willing to work on that. Anyway, Brian.
So the way I understand the motion is that basically what we have now is the bike lane runs along here, that would be southbound. Bike lane runs along here, would be northbound. So what we would do is essentially move the parking lane out to where the bike lane is, and the bike lane would be back here along the curb line.
Yeah, just as close to the curb as possible.
Yes.
So I don't have anything stronger than that. Whatever makes sense to you guys in terms of making that flow work and making sure that it fits all the geometry and all the stuff you guys went to school for.
In some locations, such as at the right turn lane, we are legally obligated to move that bike lane back towards the roadway. So there'll be situations where we have something like that. When we talk about lane widths, with this being a collector facility, technically we are required to have an 11-foot travel lane. Per the Florida Green Book, there are ways around that if that is a desire. I will say that I have done some very exhaustive research when I was a transportation engineer at the county regarding vehicle speeds versus lane widths. I looked at every single facility, essentially collector and arterial facility in this city and county, looked at lane widths versus actual vehicle speeds. Okay. And lane widths alone do not impact your travel speeds. There are other factors such as the side friction, the activity of the adjacent development, landscaping. All that goes into your vehicle speeds, but lane width alone is not going to impact your vehicle speed.
Hmm. And as we're looking up here to the north side, I see that you guys have put buffers within certain sections. I guess it would just be in other sections, moving that around so that you're using the buffer to the largest extent possible. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Book.
Like Commissioner Willis, just want to make sure I understand the motion. Really, the changes, this is putting bicycles between the parked cars, using the parked cars as a buffer for the roadway.
Correct, where there is on-street parking at. Otherwise, it would be buffered where the space allows.
And it's from essentially Depot to Southwest 16th Avenue.
Yes, sir.
Is there, so you talk about other projects that may be delayed, what would that be? What would those be?
We're working on several in-house sidewalk projects right now. I know we're working on one, 31st Drive behind the elementary school where that gap is at the bus loop. Working on the sidewalk in front of the 4th Avenue Food Park. I don't remember the full work program, but Chase can answer that if you have any more questions on that.
Probably a better question would be, is there any projects that would be delayed that are significant, that would impact safety significantly for 3 to 4 months?
Every sidewalk project that we're working on is going to impact safety.
All right, I'm mulling it over. Mr. Mayor, I'm really thinking about that. Thank you.
Commissioner Eastman.
What I think is important about this, and I see this with, there's streets, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, Mr. Singleton, where you wish they were designed one way. They are currently designed this way. I mean, one of the things is once you put paint in the ground, like on there, theoretically you could take it out. Theoretically you could move it around. Practically, it doesn't really happen. I mean, these things sit there for 20, 30 years. And then at that point, generally speaking, they just resurface it and they do it the way they designed it again, unless there is a commission that says, oh, no, we have to do it. So I do think getting this as right on the front end as possible is important. And I don't like delaying anything, including, in-house sidewalk work, things like that. But those sidewalks will get built. And hopefully this is a relatively quick process. So I think it's important for us to get this right as we're going through the design stuff. Not that, in my opinion of what's right, I think your staff did a phenomenal job with what they had going. So thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Willets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just so I understand, part of what this motion is about is that it's really the southbound lane that we're mostly talking about, where getting the bike lane closer to the curb. When it comes out of the roundabout, we are installing I don't know what you call it, I call it an off ramp, an on ramp, right from the sidewalk to the bike lane.
Yes, wherever there are additional conflict points, like going through roundabouts, going through certain intersections, we do put in ramps from the in-street bike lane to the sidewalk areas to give cyclists the option as to which one they're most comfortable using. In locations where there is not an in-street bike lane, per Florida law, a bike can take the travel lane. Sure. But if you're not comfortable taking a travel lane, we give you the option to get on the sidewalk.
Right. That's now I'm looking and seeing that it does look like it's included there, so that it would be coming on that southbound lane as opposed to then going to a bike lane that is right on traffic. Instead, you would stick close to the curb. Is the idea. On the southbound lane, you'd exit from that ramp into the bike lane, but that bike lane would now be up against the curb, is the idea.
Yes, the way I read the motion, or way I understand the motion, is basically, with the exception anywhere there's a right turn lane, the bike lane would be up against the curb. Okay. So the concrete bulb outs and separators would be floating, and then all the parking would be floating. So whenever somebody wants to exit their vehicle, they would then cross the bike lane to get up to the sidewalk.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Willets. I don't see any other lights. Any other questions on this? Before we move to it. Well, we've already taken public comment on the whole thing, so yeah. Okay, Commissioner. Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the motion up there is, I just want to make sure that does not read the same that's here. Is it identical except for putting the bike lane on the south side, southbound, between cars and the sidewalk? When I look at use of parking protected bike lanes where feasible, is that the same as what we're looking here?
It would apply to northbound and southbound.
Yeah. All right, so no other change to this other than we're moving the bike lane to basically protect those who are using that mode of travel by other cars.
Yeah, using as much of the right of way as possible to separate the bikes and the cars, essentially.
All right, and while whenever we talk about safety, we do have to talk about cost, because you want the most safety for the most amount of people spread across the greatest amount of roadway. So that's a legitimate conversation. The additional cost for this, or is it essentially just moving things in about the same, with the exception of the 3 to 4 month delay?
Your staff time cost, the infrastructure cost should be relatively neutral. I will say we got a really good price on the construction right now because I think they're a little hungry. That might change, but it should be relatively neutral.
Well, I'll say lock in the hungry vendor right now, then if this motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Willetts.
Mr. Mayor, so on the northbound, because we haven't really looked at it so much or dug into it, the northbound parking is actually back in. So putting a bike lane curbside of that, I don't know that we have that anywhere, do we? Do we have curbside bike lane with back end parking that buffers it anywhere in the city?
To my knowledge, in the city, no, but I've seen it elsewhere.
Okay.
It can be done.
But it's a little different than what I'm used to, at least in the city. And so I worry a little bit about that. With parallel, it makes a lot more sense where the cars are protecting the bike lane that's against the curb. With the back end, you would almost, you'd have to build some sort of a stop, right? And which at that point you're almost having a truly protected bike lane, because you'd need to build traffic stops, right, or curb stops, whatever they're called.
We would likely not to begin with. See how people do, and then if we had to put in curb stops after the fact, we could do so.
I will tell you, I don't like the idea of people with trucks and hitches backing in and that hitch going over into the bike lane. I also understand that even on parallel parking, people will park too far over sometimes, and there's the danger of the door and whatnot. But so that's why I was talking most about the southbound lane, Commissioner Eastman, as opposed to the northbound lane, because the northbound lane has the back end parking spots. So I know this is a generic kind of idea of a motion, but I just do you intend that to also apply to the northbound where they're back in parking?
Mr. Eastman.
Yeah, I was intending it to where you can have the parking be floating and on top of it, is what we would be doing. Let me see if I can find that particular section here. Southwest 6.
I think it's page 12 of.
I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it work with and without. So.
Okay, I don't think I've even seen a picture of what we would be doing here, so that's why I get a little nervous.
So you're pulling back. I mean, I'm comfortable with having folks. I like keeping the geometry the same. I could leave it for for staff to take a look at. Do you feel strongly about having the?
Well, I just kind of asked if in the end is it that we're going to have to put I call it a curb stop. Is that what they're called?
Wheel stop.
A wheel stop, anyways. Which hasn't been part of the plan so far. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So I mention it if it's that we think it'll work, or it's that it's going to necessitate curb stops, which would be a little more pricey, to put the wheel stops in. So, anyways, I bring it up to know whether we're, because Commissioner Book was trying to say, is this on both sides? I'm thinking mostly the southbound, but it sounds like this is on both. So I just wanted to put that out there, whether that's your concern or not.
I don't currently have any concern.
Okay.
I was just going to leave it up for staff to figure out and then put it. I would prefer curb stops. I also don't want to increase the price too much on the overall project. We could, I can leave it up to staff to kind of go through and figure out.
I think I'm fine. I just wanted to. In the end, staff will do a good job to figure out whether it's not working, whether the bike lanes get blocked by people parking too far, with trailer hitches and whatnot, and figure out that we do need those wheel stops. So I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Willett. I don't see any other lights. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously with Commissioners Engel and Duncan Walker absent. Thank you all for your time and attention on that one. We only have 4 more items to go this afternoon, so hopefully they'll go faster, because we do have a hard stop at 5 o'clock. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, 2025-150, the Streetery update with the recommendation the General Policy Committee provide feedback on the furnishing options and locations. Consider feedback concerning a flexible arrangement by opening the roadway to vehicles and parking post-construction, including closing the roadway for events only for a fee and/or closing the roadway on a schedule such as each evening or for the weekend. Select a name and select a rules and usage framework option for future action if needed.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Welcome back, Mr. Singleton.
Good afternoon, Brian Singleton, Special Advisor for Infrastructure. Myself and Andrew will be giving the presentation update today on different topics regarding the Streetery. Overview of what we'll be discussing today, actions to date, naming and branding, the furnishings, inter-reg feature, cost update, and then programming rules options. A little bit of history regarding how we got here. In 2020, the roadway was closed to provide businesses and folks an opportunity to gather when we could not gather indoors due to the pandemic. In August 2022, the City Commission decided to make the Streetery permanent. In October of that same year, and through the end of that 2022 calendar year, the Downtown Strategic Plan was adopted, which included the Streetery from the parking garage to Main Street, and then Festival Street from Main Street to Sweetwater Park. The Streetery is the only component that is currently funded at this point in time. 2023 and 2024, an effort to improve the aesthetics downtown. We got rid of all the large concrete curb stops, removed a lot of the signage, and put in the retractable bollards until we could design and implement a fully funded infrastructure project. We had a public workshop last year and developed some conceptual plans. The commission provided direction on how to move forward, and we've been in that final design phase now. We were intending to break ground towards the end of this calendar year for the project, but with the action taken regarding Lot 10 last week, we definitely want to make sure that we are coordinating with them fully to make sure that we don't have to reconstruct anything associated with that development. So we are going to alter the construction time frame to fully coordinate with Lot 10 now that we know that project is moving forward. But in October 2024, City Commission directed staff to proceed with a total reconstruction of the two blocks, keep the street closed to traffic, and review other roadways in the downtown area to provide some on-street parking. As we discussed previously, we have already added on-street parking on Southwest 2nd Street. We will be adding some more on-street parking next to the criminal courthouse and civil courthouse complex once that construction work is done by the county. And then we are adding several new parking spaces along Northwest 1st Street and Northwest 1st Avenue with the ongoing work behind the Top Restaurant. Public input that we've gotten to date, we did a public workshop in December, and then we discussed the Streetery with the Downtown Advisory Board as well as the GCRA Advisory Board. The general consensus amongst the public and both boards is that we would like the space to remain as flexible as possible, and that there is a desire to have on-street parking back on the corridor. So just wanted to remind the commission of that public input that we've gotten to date. In February, the direction we got after presenting the conceptual plans was to proceed with the final design, including brick pavers, a gateway, amenities, features, and planters and seating, to have a discussion with the public about naming the corridor, to bring back options regarding the locations of the seating and the design, and then bring back rules regarding the operation and use of the Streetery. in what circumstances food trucks and/or stages might be permitted.
Mr. Persons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andrew Persons, Chief Operating Officer. Mr. Singleton has all the hard parts of the presentation. I've got the easy stuff. With the help of your communications staff, we were able to work on the commission's direction about, going out and seeing if there are other names beyond Streatery that might be more appropriate for this block. In April, we put out a public call for new names, put it out on Facebook, on the city's website, and put out a survey. We received approximately 1,500 suggestions. Some of my favorites were Subway Sandwich. I think somebody had submitted a name based on their deceased cat. There were every permutation of Gator or Tom Petty. You would imagine their Streatery McStreet Face was very popular. But we staff took the overall list and condensed it down to 8 that we felt were representative of the recommendations that we had gotten. We put a second public survey out in June of this year, received a little bit shy of 800 votes on that. And as you can see, the Streatery, the tried and true familiar name, was the one that easily beat out all the others. And so unless the commission, of course, you all are welcome to pluck a name from the ether. But short of that, staff's recommendation is to continue using the name Streatery. And as we move forward, the communication staff will actually develop some additional branding and some identification using this name going forward. That will be we'll install during the construction.
Very good. So you really do have the easy parts.
So just a reminder of the design specifics of what's been designed to date. It would be a curbless street from parking garages here, just west of 2nd to Main Street. The 2nd Street crossing and the 1st Street crossing would be a raised intersection to slow vehicles down as they're crossing the corridor. The new street lighting will be dimmable for ambiance. A lot of the feedback we get from the downtown is our street lights are too bright. So we'll be able to turn them down while the corridor is activated. Then at that 1:45, 2 a.m. point, we can turn the lights up to encourage people to move along. We would have fully programmable tree uplighting and overhead string lighting for any type of special awareness events, any type of special awareness months. We can change the colors of that. We would have 40 power receptacles down the corridor on both sides of the roadway for festivals and events. The adjacent business will have more space to expand their outdoor seating, similar to what was recently completed on Southeast 1st Avenue in front of Oak and Harry's and the new burrito factory. The live oaks will be retained, and we would plant more trees along the Lot 10 frontage. Ultimately, that will have to be worked out with AMJ on exactly what that frontage is going to look like now that we know that project is moving forward, but it will still require some type of street trees in front of that redevelopment. The state attorney's parking lot currently exits here. City lot 13 currently exits here. We'll redirect those to the side street on First Street, so it no longer exits on to First Avenue to make full use of the First Avenue corridor. There will be bollards along 2nd Street, along First Street, and along Main Street. One for safety, two, they will drop into the ground for maintenance and for access for event programming. All the ADA issues and drainage will be corrected, and then we are proposing additional planters and furnishings. This is a general look and feel of the corridor post-construction. There will be a little bit more different type of brick paving patterns than what you see in this picture, but this is general look and feel. We have the non-bevel brick pavers, which we discussed in detail with the commission and the public. It is best for different shoe types, particularly ladies' heels, and anybody with wheelchairs, walkers, things of that nature. It is very difficult to walk over the historic beveled bricks. There'll be concrete bands and brick accent pavers, the tree up lighting, the overhead string lighting, pedestrian scale lighting, which I said will be fully be dimmable, and retractable bollards. And then power receptacles will be placed in the streetlights and in between each of the streetlights. It's another view of it. Again, the concrete won't be there. Everything will be pavers, but the area where the Lot 13 and the state attorney's lot currently exits will now be an area that will be able to be activated. ADA and drainage will be addressed. Again, pointing out the pedestrian scale and the string lighting. And then I'll show a little bit more about where planters and seating will be centered along the corridor. And then for the outdoor cafe, we will be allowing the businesses at a minimum to come to the edge of the tree wells, similar to what has recently occurred on Southeast First Avenue across the street. And then the new street trees will be planted in locations where they currently do not exist, particularly in front of Lot 10. So these are the proposed furnishings types that will be placed along the corridor. The numbers are going to change due to Lot 10 again. We'll have to coordinate with them on what their frontage is going to look like. So everything that we have designed to date assumed that Lot 10 was not going to be moving forward, but now that we know they are going to be moving forward, we'll need to coordinate more with them. But what you see today, I think it's equivalent to, 201 benches that would be along the corridor in different locations. So this would be consistent with would be a festival layout consistent with the current direction. These would be pop-up tents that you see, this mustard-looking color. They are currently all laid out that still provides access to all the businesses' front doors, as well as they're located in locations that can easily access the power receptacles, still provide access for people attending the different festivals, as well as still provide emergency services response through the corridor. What we have shown is in front of the state attorney lot and Lot 13 is fully putting benches and seating in that area, as well as in front of the vacant space along Main Street. Originally, we did show a significant amount of seating in front of Lot 10 since we didn't know what the status of that is, but as I indicated before, that will be changing. Then we also show seating and planting and planters down the center of the corridor as well. So 4 planters and a significant number of benches down the center of the corridor. Those planters also do allow seating on those as well. When we met with all of the businesses along the corridor, the current businesses all desire to be able to expand out as much as possible to provide more outdoor space. So this layout shows that cafe space being extended. It still provides the emergency response, it still provides the seating, but the difference between the two is there were 64 tents here, there are 43 tents here. So if the commission has a desire to provide more outdoor cafe space for the adjacent businesses, this is generally what a festival layout would look like in that particular case.
Hang on, Mr. Singleton, Commissioner Willetts.
We go back one. Thank you, Mr. Singleton. So if, and the furniture we're talking about, the seating is not like cemented in permanent. So if the Boss Art owned land, if they develop that and have front facing doors that face onto the street, then we would obviously move that furniture somewhere else, or?
Correct. So all the furnishing that we're proposing is heavy enough that it can't just be pushed around by folks, but it's not bolted or concreted into the ground.
Okay, so then that provides future flexibility, at least there. And then the same would go probably for the cafe space, because if the areas that currently aren't developed, if that does become developed, is this a promise that that future area would be potential cafe space? Because we've done it for the other ones, and same with Lot 10, though we don't think it's going to be a bunch of cafes perhaps facing the street. But is this, if we go with the alternative festival layout, or is this something that can change back and forth as we go down the road?
Yes. So the intent is to always allow the adjacent businesses use to a minimum to the edge of the tree well. If the commission desires, going all the way out to the edge of the roadway. So the intent is, yes, as businesses change, we talk to as property owners change, we talk to them, see how they want to activate that space. If they don't want to use the space, then we can move, our furniture into it. If they do want to activate the space, then we can move our furniture out.
So festivals would have to kind of catch up with us every year to see kind of perhaps where we're at on how many potential spaces we have. That, like a festival who's there every year, they may have to change their plans a little bit, because some years there may be 43 spots, maybe there's less, maybe there's a little more.
In the alternate situation where we give the businesses more space, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Commissioner Willetts. Let's go ahead and finish this out before we ask a bunch more questions, so we don't get.
We talked about an entryway arch. I forget which month it was, but last time we talked about this. We looked at it due to still needing to maintain the traffic signal, cross people on Main Street. We would ultimately have to do a custom signal archway. Very expensive. So really, the arch exceeds our resources at this time. The other option would have been to do some ground-mounted signals, but again, that is going to impede on your emergency access as well as the walkability of the space. So we are not recommending to move forward with any type of entryway arch at this time. So as we went through the plan development, we got 60% plans. We worked with our construction vendor, Scorpio. They prepared an estimate for us. That number came in at $4.5 million. We were already planning on allocating $2 million from GCRA. We were planning on allocating $1 million from gas tax, but we have the ability to add another $1 million from gas tax. So that just leaves a delta in the $500,000 range. There are multiple options on how we can come up with that. I'm not concerned about finding that delta, but some of those options are there in front of you. But again, it could come from the Budget Stabilization Fund, since it is a one-time expense, the local option gas tax, CRA, or if we decided to designate it as a park, we could use Wild Spaces Public Places dollars.
part of the recommendation from the commission was to bring back some options about how we might be able to apply some rules and some usage guidelines to the streetery. In discussions, we've essentially laid out 3 options for the commission to consider and provide direction to staff to either stick with option 1, which is essentially the status quo, how the streetery has been operated currently, which is largely as a public space with some private usage by the adjacent restaurants for sidewalk cafes through the city's sidewalk cafe licensing process, and then occasional special event permits that come in through the city's special event permit process. The option 2 is sort of a more a slightly more restrictive option. This would be adding the streetery to the park, to designating it as a city park, which would then we'd be applying city park rules to it, which can go kind of above and beyond just general law. Things such as setting hours of operation, no smoking, things like that would otherwise be permitted by general law. We can, by designating it as a park, apply park rules with option 2. We would be able to set specific hours for the streetery. It wouldn't necessarily need to be consistent with the current 11:30 closing time for all parks, but that would be worked into an ordinance. And then the third option would be the most sort of tailored, if you will, to the streetery, and that would be a separate ordinance that we would likely put in the code of ordinances dealing just with the streetery or with other pedestrian streets, of which there are currently none in the city, with the exception of this one. This would be the sort of the Cadillac version, if you will. One of the asks from the commission was coming back with a recommendation regarding food trucks and kiosks, and at this point, staff's recommendation is that those be only allowed through a special event permit process. We have, I don't believe that any of the input that we've received to date from our boards or from the public have indicated that they want sort of permanent food trucks or permanent kiosks out there currently, and that obviously could be a different decision in the future. But for now, we're recommending that those things be allowed only in concert with a special event permit. And I can answer any questions you have about the rules section.
Are we pretty much?
I think that's about it, right? Next steps.
So this was our schedule pre-Lot 10. So this will all change a little bit, but as we talk more with AMJ, determine what their impacts will be, it's primarily regarding utility service, because if that utility service needs to be upgraded for anything north of Lot 10 along this corridor, we definitely don't want to start demoing the roadway and rebuilding the streetery, and then them having to do upgrades, right behind us. So that's going to have to be coordinated with seeing what exactly their scope of work is, and then coordinating those 2 construction jobs. So staff recommendation is to provide feedback on the furnishing options and the locations of the furnishings, to consider the feedback you've gotten from the public regarding opening the roadway on some type of schedule for traffic and on-street parking. There have been a lot of challenges with some activities that have been going on out in the streetery that we've been talking to the adjacent business owners about. Opening it on some type of schedule could potentially assist with some of that. We need to decide on a final name, and then just need some direction on how to address the rules and those 3 different options that were presented.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Singleton. Lots of, I'm sure, don't have any lights yet, but I'm sure we'll have a bunch. And I will say before we get started, I appreciate the 5 years of effort that has gone into this. And I hope that we don't have another many years of it because it's going to drive me crazy. But notice that I have not deviated in my vote, and I'm not going to deviate in my vote just because it's taken 5 years. So with that, I do have some lights. Commissioner Willits.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, question about the options for rules and regulations. Under option 2, that it would be a park, would sidewalk cafe still though apply to the edge of the tree well? Particularly, I'm imagining smoking in a sidewalk cafe. But if the whole thing is a park, where would we draw the line of the park? Is it a storefront to storefront, or is it the end of the edge of the tree well to tree well?
I mean, typically what we do is when we name a park, we don't necessarily adopt like a specific map with that. And so that could be something that we would need to determine, because obviously right now it exists as right of way. You know, it's not a park, it's right of way. And your sidewalk cafe ordinance, for instance, allows for expansion and, you know, licensing of the city's right of way for that. So you could potentially, for instance, designate only a portion, like the center portion, potentially as a park that would be more public space, and leaving the areas in front of the businesses as areas that could be, you know, subject to a sidewalk cafe. I think we could kind of, if that's the will of the commission in terms of like exploring option 2, we could suss that out and bring it back to you before you know anything went into place.
Okay, I'm kind of neutral. I just particularly imagine smoking, because parks don't have smoking, correct?
Sure.
No
Yep, exactly.
But if this is a street where some people would be eating, having a beer,
It's different than a lot of our parks. I mean, there are things in the park rules that you probably don't want happening here or in any parks, like setting fires or doing archery, for instance. But there may be things that, like smoking outside here, that wouldn't be desirable in a park, but maybe more consistent with like a downtown eating type
right.
of arrangement.
So then the next question is also about bicycles and scooters. If our current option, if it's a pedestrian street, bicycles and little scooters can be on it because that's their right, it's pedestrian. Mm-hmm. But if it's a park, could we then control it more? Because I know in some of our parks, at certain areas of the park,
Correct.
We don't allow depot right along the water's edge. We don't allow bicycles in that area.
Right.
So that's just.
And we do have option 1 and option 2. All the options. The city would still retain its sort of proprietary authority, meaning that we can set like kind of reasonable rules for usage. But there are things that would otherwise be allowed in general ordinance that in parks have specific kind of restrictions, and that's sort of that option. And then option 3 is largely like we would basically draft a separate ordinance that would just deal with the streetery. We would probably put that in chapter 23 of your code of ordinances.
Okay,
more
and
likely.
To that idea, the food truck idea, or where this fits in, I think food trucks is the big version of food, but where do carts fit in, like a hot dog cart, an ice cream cart, or elotes? Where does that fit in? Is that considered straight up food truck, or is there a different ability for, like, I'm imagining a Friday night, a hot dog cart, so college students who maybe need to put some food on their stomach can go to a hot dog cart, but that wouldn't be a special event necessarily, it's just a random Friday night.
Right. I think I may have to rely on Mr. Edelton. I believe that food trucks the definition is inclusive of carts as well. Is that correct? Nope, he's shaking his head, so I'm gonna have him come up.
Where do carts fit in, or do we not allow them at all? I haven't seen many here, but.
Good afternoon, Forrest Edelton, Director of Sustainable Development. I hate to do this is a bureaucratic switcheroo, but to my knowledge to date, carts and food vendors has been largely permitted and regulated by GPD. So I'm hoping that maybe Chief Moya might have some more information. But food trucks, yes, under the Land Development Code in Chapter 30.
Hot dogs are dangerous.
To date, we have not done things that are sold on sidewalks or right-of-way, at least through sustainable development, that part of permitting.
Okay, and I understand the idea of like not having permanent food trucks, because then it's just really kind of direct competition to the restaurants. But I'm thinking of specific towns where like it's literally a hot dog cart. It's great for late night because it can come there, feed the people who happen to be there, and then it's a point where people meet. It's a point of safety. It's extra eyes on the street. So I like the idea of some flexibility if that doesn't really get in the way of the idea of providing all of the potential restaurants their market that they want to protect. They don't want constant food trucks, and I totally get that. So I do have a question about where potentially where we'd be able to fit in much smaller vendors like different types of different types of sodas, drinks,
operated in
all
this
that.
area in the past.
Right, and so I just don't know where that'll fit in. It'll be interesting. Mr. Mayor, I agree with you that this is where we're headed down this road. I'm not going to change my mind on this because it is being designed so that it is flexible. In the future, there is flexibility. Things can change in the future. Though the completely curbless is a little different. I think it'll stay in the test of time. And well into the future, if things completely change on that street, we need something different. We can do it. But for now, this is a great adventure. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Willetts. Commissioner Eastman.
Thank you. As it relates to the cafe space, I mean, one of the two questions that you guys have for us is how much space do we keep wholly within the public realm versus allowing as a sidewalk cafe, right? How flexible are our sidewalk cafe regulations currently to say that during the downtown arts festival, the fall arts festival, that folks are going to have to move their stuff out of the way so that we can use this whole section versus, I don't know, like a random farmer's market on a Monday. What are the pluses and minuses of giving folks the full sidewalk cafe, and what flexibility do we have?
So within the agreements for the cafes, we have flexibility to do as we desire. Within a certain amount of notice, we can have the adjacent business owners relocate, move the seating, fencing, whatever they may have out there for city purposes. What I see the challenge might be with that, if we want to use that space for our festivals and other activities, is do the businesses have any place to put any of their furnishings they might have out there? So that we will have the flexibility to have businesses relocate their private furnishings, but do they have the space to store them somewhere elsewhere?
Right. Okay, and then giving them the opportunity to use that whole section, of course, that's nice for the businesses. They can have more of that space. But you're saying that for more than one-off events or things where they have to store something for any period of time, that could have an impact. Asking them to move it and the logistics of actually moving it, you're saying?
Correct. So basically, we could double their space by providing more space. But the takeaway is unless you have them push everything back, you have less space for vendors. By the time for the space you need for emergency access and for patrons to get up and down the street.
Right. Okay. And then you mentioned, so going back to branding, you mentioned that we can't do ground. You mentioned the overhead, which I understand, that's expensive. We have there's some issues with the getting cars underneath it, but what are ground mounted symbols? What is that we were talking about from before?
Ground mounted signals.
Yeah.
Basically, let me think of an example. Coming northbound off the interstate at Archer Road, if you look there, the traffic signals are at a pedestal on the ground.
Oh.
Another example is Home Depot on 53rd Avenue on the side street. Because of the overhead transmission lines, the the traffic signals are mounted on the ground instead of on a strain pole or a mast arm or something like that. So there is the ability to place two ground-mounted traffic signals, because whenever you have a traffic signal, you have to have two faces. So you could do that, but that is then going to impact access for emergency vehicles getting into the Streatery area, and that's more stuff on the ground for people to walk and get around.
Okay. So what are we thinking? I mean, so what I think we wanted was just to make sure that when we open up the space, that it is branded as its own space, that folks know when they're coming into there. I mean, do we have any ideas for branding or other ways to kind of showcase the space as its own set alone, park space, usable space?
The way that the frontage will be done on Main Street, it'd be very evident about the look and feel. You'll see the furnishings, you'll see the overhead string lighting, but it would have to be accomplished with some type of enhanced signing or things of that nature. We could incorporate some type of signage on the existing mast arm, but doing some type of arch feature is going to be a challenge.
That makes sense. And then going back to park rules. I mean, right now, and I guess we have both of the business owners here. I mean, my thought is that we've had this open for about 3 years now. I could see a world, as I've looked up other cities, 5 years now. I could see a world where there's a lot more friction between various business owners, where there's some issues that are going on out there. As far as I know, we don't. What is the benefit of putting this under parks and having these rules and regulations underneath it? What is the are there some specific things that we think would be useful going forward in terms of the regulation of folks using this space?
I mean, largely, I think that the commission's discussion has been, should there be hours of operation?
Right.
And I mean, largely putting it into parks, or into the parks section would be to apply those rules that we would otherwise not be able to apply without a separate ordinance, as discussed in option 3.
Do we see is there any enhanced, regulation in terms of getting special event permits or anything like that?
No, none of that would change, and it would not be something that the Parks Department would be managing like a park. It would largely be just for for those list of rules essentially and the hours of operation. Otherwise, it would be a special event permit process. But I think in the last discussion, there was some interest in exploring what other types of regulations that we could put on the area.
Okay. All right, perfect. Yeah, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Chestnut.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like option 1. I think that gives us the most flexibility, allowing food trucks for special events. Read my notes now. Closing the roadway on a schedule, closing it. And then, why does the police department regulate food carts? That is that's strange. Should we look at moving that to a more appropriate place? I would say the answer for me is yes.
that we can dive into that a little bit and do some research. We would need to probably look at the code sections, and
Thank you.
they're licensed a little bit differently, I think, and they're in a separate section of code.
All right, thank you. I'd like to see that moved. Now, I don't know what's it called in Tallahassee, the Governor's Square. Is that regulated that's not regulated by parks in Tallahassee, the area right down by the Capitol? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's their streetery.
That I don't know, but we can certainly give them a call and ask.
Yeah, I don't think it comes under parks. I think coming under parks would place some regulations on us that it would take away the flexibility. And what else did I have? And I like the name, the Streatery. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chestnut. Commissioner Book.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the, what's our latest feedback from the Downtown Advisory Board and GCRA? Have they seen these options that came? I know that we have some earlier feedback in our backup.
So this is the feedback that we've gotten from the two advisory boards. We did not talk to them specifically about the naming, or correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, about the different options regarding rules and programming.
I would presume on the naming, they had the ability to weigh in on the surveys anyway, so I wasn't concerned about that. I just wonder if they had weighed in on any of the specifics related to the options or haven't seen those either.
That's the latest meeting that they've seen any of the options. They have not seen this.
Which is no different than it is.
All right. Well, as it relates to the option slide, this is kind of the mayor you were talking about. Sometimes you don't want to delay, and you've been talking about it for I don't know how many years on this one, but this is one where the clear path is we stay the course. That's what I think. I do not think that you pigeonhole a hospitality and entertainment and 24/7 economy into a park model, because it's not a park. And then we have to do additional regulations. We already have plenty of overlaying regulations that govern, how people can be there and what the hours of operation are, and where people can park and things like that. And you made a couple of good examples of some other regulations that are in parks that may not work for a 24/7 economy. Both a business district in the daytime and a entertainment district, hospitality district, business and food, welcoming things, special event at night. So I also wouldn't want to dilute our wild spaces, public places funds, which potentially could happen if it was a park, because we already have plenty of park projects that exceed our allocations in that regard. The furnishings are pretty important. I know it's a minor component, but I would offer, this is not going to be in any type of motion, that the furnishings have to be, I've said this term before, SEPTED compliant, crime prevention through environmental design, meaning they're designed for their intended use. They are only supposed to have the people there that would use them in a way that benefit that area. So widths, dimensions, shapes, stuff. For example, I could tell you that I would not want people coming there to sleep in the Streatery, because if we have that allows no other people to use that. So the furnishings are going to be absolutely essential, and I would think that would be a really good topic for those two boards, especially the Downtown Advisory Board and the GCRA, to really delve into the specifics of that. Intended use will be key for the businesses and areas. And then one last thought is just, since we have vacant space, I'm just kind of thinking out of the box here. Is there the capability, as this moves forward in whatever iteration, to offer our other quadrants and business owners potentially preferential treatment for that vacant space to move? And I say that only because we have good space in our other quadrants, but this may fit the business model better for them to move into an area that's flexible, like you've proposed. So that's a couple of my thoughts. Power receptacles, 40 will not be enough. I can't tell you that 42 is enough. Let's just be thinking about it. You always have to plan for the future. And, bollards and things like that have to be capable to withstand the ability to protect our citizens there. So those are our thoughts. I would be happy to move forward with option one. I'm happy if Commissioner Chestnut, you were thinking about making that motion, but I like the name. Those are some thoughts. Thank you. This is really good work. It's time to move to the next step.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Chestnut, and then me, and then we'll go to the public. Yeah.
Thank you. Just one follow-up. I think you've cobbled together all of the funding except for $500,000. Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. I was dealt about $500,000.
But you could take the $500,000 perhaps from the budget stabilization fund?
Correct, budget stabilization fund.
Or gas tax someplace.
Gas tax
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
CRA.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So then there's really no need to go to option two to parks. We need to stick with option one. And so at the appropriate time, I'll be happy to put a motion on the floor.
Very good. We'll hear from the public real quick,
After
and
the
then I'll
public.
come back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a few things that I wanted to add to this. Thank you all for sitting with us once again through this again, and for coming down to be a part of it. A thing that got just kind of brushed past, which is really important. And one of the bigger reasons for doing this is to address ADA issues and drainage. Horrible ADA issues on these two blocks. The drainage is, 120-year-old stormwater infrastructure. Those are the biggest reasons for doing this, to make it a usable, modern area. Further, adding in the pedestrian scale lighting, the tree lighting, that sort of thing, that meets the SEPTED issues. Right now, one of the things keeping people from using it is that it's not lit up. I mean, realistically, that's a problem. So clearing that up and making it safe to walk for anybody in any kind of shoes to walk on it without having to walk through great big puddles makes a huge difference, and lighting it up makes a huge difference. Those are things we've been talking about literally for 5 years. So I'm super excited to get moving forward on that. I also like option one. Something that hasn't been talked about that I've advised these folks to come talk to staff about is there is a group working with Music GNV organization to create a Gainesville Walk of Fame, a music artist Walk of Fame that they would really like to put in the Streatery. Their goal is, and I'll read their stuff here, to raise enough money, and they've got a target that is not out of line at all, to fund creation and installation of star-shaped slabs like the ones you'd find in St. Louis or Nashville or Hollywood, to celebrate our local music culture and heritage and give people another reason to visit downtown. Each year, this group plans to roll out new names to be added to the street based on their criteria. I've told them to get with you all as soon as possible before everything is fully baked in. It seems like a really good spot for it, but that's just an idea that is out there that is gaining steam, and I know they have started to raise money for that purpose. So those things exist and are out there. If it isn't clear, I would really like us to get moving forward on this. Madam Clerk, who do we have for public comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Jacob Larson.
Welcome, Mr. Larson.
Hi, Jacob Larson. Thank you, Mayor and staff. Could we get the option up there again? Because I didn't memorize the option one, just to be a little more. I don't know if that was. Thanks. I just had some comments, and as a downtown business neighbor for about 10 years, been glad to be there and been excited about the potential of this evolving. Yeah, well, option one. So that, because that might determine what I say next. Outdoor. Is this where it's only closed down? It's driving and it's only closed down for, no. It's kind of how it is now?
It's how it is now with better infrastructure.
Got it. Therefore, sorry about that. Well, I think I'm just going to go to, since that was on layout. On rules, I know it might be hard, but to figure out something creatively for day sleeping. I know we had a meeting with other business owners at the Hyatt, and one of the things that I wasn't aware of is that the camping rule that can be enforced is only for nighttime. And on the Streatery, for the last couple of years, we've had a lot of houseless people sleeping now more and more during the day with bedding and things. So it'd be good to maybe in the rulemaking of the space as it continues to evolve to have some things in place that can help with loitering. And I know that's going to be weird because we're going to want families and people to hang out there. So that might be a difficult task, but I think one that it would be necessary for like as you had mentioned, for people who want to take advantage of it. And then maybe time. I don't know if there's a time restraint. Like if there's furniture, how can people stay on that same piece of furniture for from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. or so? That might be another hard rule, but I'm just encouraging something with that could be put in place again to help with some of the issues that have kept people from wanting to experience what is there now. Some exciting news that we already have, I think, because of some of the development Streatery. There's a restaurant opening next to me, and there's negotiations with a second one, but that's all I'm allowed to say. Not with me, with my landlord. So there will be even more things going on, which I'm really excited about to be participating with them on that. I was talking with one of the police officers at the Hyatt, and they had mentioned to, I don't know if they already said to encourage running the conduit for cameras, and she had mentioned that Bo Diddley crime went down 95% after they did the cameras and the signage for that she implemented there. And then usage, as that develops, a calendar that would be easy for the public to see, and people that want to do events there can navigate that space and propose the events that they would have, knowing what's happening. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Jacqueline Stano.
Welcome.
If we could go back to the slide of the layout. Good afternoon. My name's Jacqueline. I manage the Satara Wellness. If you can see, we do take up the largest space, and we have occupied it for over 6 years. I'm here because the situation with the Streatery in front of my business has gone beyond frustrating. It has become unsafe, unmanageable, and frankly unacceptable. As a medical marijuana facility, we are legally barred from obtaining or utilizing an outdoor cafe permit. That means, unlike other businesses, we cannot host events in the Streatery. Yet, my business and my customers pay the price every single day. Just this past Monday, in broad daylight, a man overdosed in the Streatery. Paramedics and police were called right in front of my business, and that incident was not random. It was the predictable result of the city's negligence by leaving this space wide open, unsupervised, and undefined. It has become a haven for loitering, drug use, and unsafe activity. If you want downtown businesses to survive and you want families to come down here and feel safe, there just has to be more intention behind the space. At the very least, like bare minimum, even if it's signage, this space is reserved for planned events only, no loitering. It could contain a QR that links to the city's calendar, or how to apply to have events down there. But at this point, it's not safe, and I can't see it as a place that people would want to come, because I see my customers walk away every day, and they tell me that's why. Downtown businesses have invested in Gainesville. We've weathered challenges, and we've stayed here when others have left. A lot of the businesses around me have closed over the 6 years. We keep fighting for this. I'm sorry to destroy the ambience, but I'm having to have motion sensor lights installed outside just because we have that constant problem of people right outside our door asking anybody within a 500-mile radius for drug money. So a lot of the plans, it just seems so far-fetched because it's not the reality of how the space is. Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, before you walk away, we have a question for you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So what do you suggest that we do?
More just regulation. So the benches are only going to be filled up with people sleeping on them. There was a grocery cart filled with food and luggage. It took 3 weeks to have that cleaned up. I did 3 separate reports. I talked to Lieutenant Cardwell about it multiple times. Even this past Monday, I already had a ticket in because there was a bench in the Streatery, and Lieutenant Cardwell told me this is personal property, I can't touch it. Mm. Well, after the overdose, they were like, "You're welcome. We're gonna take this bench away now." So it's just not feasible.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I will say, this is the reason we need to get moving and not just wait a little longer and a little longer and a little longer and a little longer. We're never going to program it until we build it. Who's next?
Matthew Hurst.
Welcome, Mr. Hurst.
Hi, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about the Streatery. If I could have the camera. So I first wanted to put up a picture for what it looked like. Where did I put it? This was a picture from back when the area was open to traffic. And I think it worked out a lot better during business hours to have it open to traffic. It means that you're going to have people parking there patronizing the businesses. It means you'll have traffic that'll hopefully deter crime. And then on the evenings and weekends, or for special events, go ahead and have it shut off for vehicle traffic. And my preference has been to keep the historic bricks and granite curb and not to do the $4.5 million reconstruction. I believe that whatever configuration, whatever physical materials you put in the space, no set of materials is going to be perfect for every use. Indeed, I have some pictures on here of some of the. This is the non-beveled bricks. This is over in Hale Plantation. As you can see in the village center, they have not taken them up and reset them. As a result, they're very uneven and potentially very hazardous for pedestrians. And that's a concern anytime they get uneven. I believe the beveled edges you have with the historic bricks, they're actually designed so when there's slight amounts of settling, the bevel provides a gap at the top, so that way you don't have that sudden, sharp unevenness. So there's a reason why they put the bevel there. They knew what they were doing. My suggestion is that you take the current bricks and simply in certain areas where they've settled, where you have puddles, that they be reseeded. And that's something that you're going to have to do, whether you do this project or not, every so often. The proposed project would put cement down. The pavers would be sitting on a bed of some sand on top of cement. And that means that sooner or later they're going to settle, and in certain areas have to be dug up and reseeded. I believe that overall, this is my Venn diagram. If I can zoom out, if that's possible. I believe that overall, keeping the current physical materials there and then going about doing your programming is the best compromise. It saves money, it returns the facility to public use much faster, and it keeps a downtown setting with authentic historic resources. So we put all three of those together and we get the repair and reopen option. Regarding stormwater, the current bricks are on, historic bricks are on sand. They're designed to actually drain through them. My understanding is the options you've chosen would have a concrete underneath sand and then the new pavers on top of that. That's not going to allow drainage through there. The problem with the puddles, again, is because where there's subsurface erosion, the surface is no longer, it has those dips. And when you get rid of the dips, it'll go back and drain the way it was designed to drain. So I appreciate the opportunity, and my proposed motion is to keep the historic bricks and curb, do spot reseeding of the bricks where necessary, and that's the ongoing, whichever option you choose, whether you keep what you have now or whether you don't, and reopen the street to vehicle traffic during the weekdays, so that you will have during the daylight hours, so you'll have a continual trickle of people coming and going and helping to deter crime and helping the businesses there. And then save the $4.5 million that would be spent on the physical infrastructure for this project for other uses in the downtown area. So thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Hughes.
Welcome, Mr. Hughes.
Hello. This thing's driving me crazy. That's why it was driving me crazy. My name's Danny Hughes. All of you know who I am up there, I think. I own Lucy's Downtown. It's my 14th wedding anniversary today. This is the 6th wedding anniversary I've been talking about this. I think I would like to see it finished as much or more than Mayor Ward. The first thing is with all of the stuff that I've seen, our licensing folks, the people at the state of Florida, alcohol, beverage, and tobaccos, as well as state licensed zoning is going to have something to say about coming and going with our spaces. We either have to keep them or we have to lose them. Further on that note, we were told in 2022 that the space was going to remain permanent and we were going to be able to use it. I personally made a significant monetary investment into my business to cover that extra space. So losing that would be frustrating is one word I can think of. The other one also aren't great. So that's going to be a thing. Activation is the #1 way to combat the loitering issue. Like, we look up and down Streatery. I understand it's in front of Certera. I understand it's in front of the Bull. It's not in front of me because our space is activated 6 days a week. We are closed on Tuesdays, and the Grace folks use that space on Tuesdays as an outreach location. We talk to them. We're totally fine with it. I don't know how successful that is. I really have no idea, but they do use the tables and chairs. If the street does come open and close, like we've talked about with weekday park, weekday drive-through, weekend drive, whatever it is, there is a realistic issue of where do we put stuff. Those octagon tables in front of my building weigh 800 pounds. So it's not going to be easy to move. So we have that issue. I understand that there is we haven't replaced that furniture because we know this is coming. And when it does come up, we'd make some decisions on that. As far as Commissioner Book about the power, I run almost the entire market for the folks at Halbazar on 3 20-amp breakers, so 40 should probably do the trick, I would hope.
I'll take your word for it.
We might find out. We might not. I'm not sure. As far as food trucks are concerned, like, whatever. Let's go. Who cares? I mean, high tide raises all ships. The more people that come down there, the better off we all are. And then, all things considered, with the events of this week, I think it would be a pretty easy and pretty cool thing to do to incorporate Terry Fleming's name into the naming of the Streatery. Maybe that's off base. Maybe it's off mark. I don't really know. But somebody told me a long time ago that you have to die in this town to get a street named after you. And again, all things considered with the activities of this week, I don't think it's a far-fetched idea. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this from everybody. I really do. I just would like to see it finished. And I bet Manager Curry would like to see it finished before she leaves. And now she's shaking her head at me like, I don't know, don't bring me into it. Anyway, thanks, y'all. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you,
Happy
Mr. Hughes.
anniversary.
Yes. All right.
Melanie Barr.
Welcome, Ms. Barr.
Yes, well, once again, I'm here as an advocate for historic preservation, and I do want to keep the bricks. They're 110 years old at least, and when you experience something, you experience a tout ensemble. You have the entire picture. You have the big trees, you have the old storefronts, and you have the bricks. Then you know you're downtown. If you have pavers, and later on as your memory dims, you'll say, oh, we had fun. Now, were we at Tioga, or we were at Celebration Point, or where were we? If we have the bricks, they're gonna know they're downtown. In terms of the handicapped people, one of the slides showed concrete edges, and I'm recommending that those be expanded to accommodate a wheelchair. And you pick up the bricks, you lay them down flat. As Matthew showed, the modern pavers or bricks in Hale Plantation are already buckling. So just by having new modern pavers, that doesn't mean they're gonna not gonna shift. So our bricks are thicker, they're historic, they're more quality. They can be picked up and laid down on a more solid surface that drains better. If you have concrete below the pavers, where is the water gonna go? So I'm an advocate for historic preservation. I want to see the bricks saved. I want to see the old trees. I want to see the historic buildings all in one. Then you know you're downtown. We got to keep Gainesville, and preserve what we have, because we can't keep taking a little bit away here and a little bit away and knocking down a building and losing our bricks, and then where are we? We don't even know we're in Gainesville anymore. So I want to advocate for the bricks, for the handicapped people, expand the concrete on the edges, maybe make a concrete path across the center so they can roll across to the other side. But I do want to see handicapped people use this, and they can go out onto the bricks. They're doing it now. Bricks are there now, so I don't want to see them go. So I'm just trying to say, keep the bricks, keep the trees, everything else is fine. I do think traffic should have a way to access this, and then if there's more cars, I think there'll be less people asking for money and that kind of thing, because there will be more traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Last speaker, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Commissioner Book.
All right, just a couple clarifications, some very, very good remarks and really thoughtful and meaningful related to downtown. Both Mr. Hughes and Ms. Stano, you were both talking about basically activation. We got to get people there. And that is a principle we were talking about, which is legitimate users freeze out illegitimate users, right? The more people we have there, the more things we have, the more cars we have there, people, bikes, pedestrians, special events. That, by definition, will start to move elements that we don't want there. And so I'm in agreement. That's a why we move forward, which is, Mr. Mayor, it's exactly what you said as it relates to that. One thing I thought Director Singleton might be helpful, Mr. Hurst talked about how the space is being used for other hours. And I know we've talked about it, I think we know up here, but could you just talk a little bit about the flexible space that we're talking about right now is exactly allows it to be open, for example, Monday through Friday, maybe business hours or banker's hours, and maybe it has a different look at a different time. But could you just talk a little bit about this option one, should that push forward?
So the way that the space allocation is currently laid out, it, with the retractable bollards, it would allow us to open and close the roadway on a schedule. So could that be every evening? Could that be Thursday night through, Monday morning? It has that flexibility. Or could it just be closed for festivals and events only? It has that ability. We would do a little bit of changes with some of the hardscape. It would not be any type of significant redesign. It would just be adding some directional indicators along the corridor. We would not likely see the planters and the seating down the center of the roadway in that particular configuration. Could it be done? Sure, but probably not recommended. So the current layout with the cafe space going to the edge of the tree wells could allow opening and closing on some type of a schedule.
All right, so potentially parking allowed.
Correct. So where you see the tents at is essentially where on-street parking could occur, and then there would be space between those cars and the tree wells for the pedestrian activity.
Anecdotally, I would say that my understanding of a lot of the business and downtown owners wanted that as a whole. I realize there was no unanimity, but they wanted that additional activity, additional capability for people to park, for example, in front of a business and get to a business. So I tell you that, Mr. Hurst, because that's already a component of what you got is there. The last piece, I think, is, the historic bricks are important. Very few things would trump us maintaining the character and culture of an area, but accessibility is one of them, right? So I don't want to mix and match because I know there's a motion coming, but I do have a thought that I'd like to get from my colleagues when we're done that's going to deal specifically with the bricks component, depending upon if that motion goes forward. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. So before we give this to Commissioner Chestnut for the motion, I will say my understanding of this is it is that there will be an opportunity at some point in the future without changing the physical nature of the street. If at some point this commission changes its mind and thinks that this should be a car street, a future commission could do that. That is not my intent here. Let me be super clear. That is not my intent because it changes what businesses are able to do and what they have already committed to doing. We have, over the past several years, lost folks who very much considered opening businesses here and came to me and said, I don't know what you all are going to do. You say on the dais that it is going to be pedestrian, and then you open it up for another vote. How do I know that I can commit to one or the other? We've got to stop trying to please everybody because you can't please everybody. And I want option one reads to me, and if your intent, Commissioner Chestnut, is for that to be sometimes of the day driving and sometimes of the day not driving, I can't vote for that. Humans don't work very well with sometimes you drive there, sometimes you don't. They get real frustrated with it. And I will not support that, as I have not supported it for the last 5 years. Just wanted to put that out there. Why don't you go ahead and make the motion, and then we can hear from other folks.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Well, you may not be able to support this.
Okay.
I move that we have staff move forward with implementation of option one with a flexible arrangement by opening the roadway to vehicles and parking, closing the roadway on a schedule such as each evening or for weekends, leaving some flexibility there. Select the name The Streatery. Revisit furnishing options and locations. Take $500,000 from the Budget Stabilization Fund to complete the funding. And allow food trucks on for special events. Okay, well, we don't all have.
Is there a second on that?
That's it. Oh, I think that's all of it.
Quite comprehensive. All right, I'll second that.
So before we move on, I would note that no matter what we pass, if we could, I feel more comfortable leaving it up to staff to figure out where that extra money comes from instead of saying it must come from a particular place.
Well, that's what they said. I took it from them, but
Well,
okay. Okay, yeah.
The slide listed 3 different places it could come from, so I would just be careful saying it has to come from that. But Commissioner Eastman.
Thank you. Yeah, can we go back to the design on there?
The layout?
The layout, yeah. So we can. Yeah, I just, open, close, whatever that is. I will say that well, one, I'm supporting it being closed. I have seen, there are streets that are out there in this world that have been designed very well for pedestrians. You got Argyle Street in Chicago. There's a world of different options. This is not that street. Like this is a festival street. And if we wanted to design it for cars, there's great ways to do that. These are 2 15-foot lanes separated by unlimited parallel parking. I mean, I would like to think that there, in a future where we are redesigning it, you might move furniture into specific areas, maybe put more of a pinch point there in there. But I mean, reopening this street just to cars, I don't think will get us to where we want to go. I think we've committed to having this be a pedestrian street. I think this is a perfectly adequate. This is a good pedestrian street. If we wanted to do something different, this would not be the design that I would think would make a lot of sense in that. So I want to move forward. I don't think I'll be supporting the motion as it stands. I think I'd have to bring up all 5 of them that are there, but there's the flexible arrangement portion. There's food trucks with special events, which I think is already allowed through special events, right? So it's I would have probably just done a simpler motion that would have continued forward. I guess we can let this motion go forward, and I wanted to ask about activation of the street. Well, I guess I will jump into this. What is the timeline? We've talked a lot about timeline of construction. We want this to move forward. Knowing that Lot 10 is breaking ground at June 2026, what are we actually talking about with breaking ground on this?
It's hard for me to say at this point because I don't know where Lot 10's utilities will be coming from. So once we have more certainty of what's going on underground, then we can move forward with breaking ground on the Streatery. So it's really going to be contingent upon Lot 10 getting something submitted for us to start taking a look at and really laying out their full site design.
Okay, so it's not contingent upon them breaking ground in June 2026. It is contingent upon site design.
Correct. Once we know where the utilities are coming to and from, then we can go ahead and get started.
Okay, which could be spring of next year. Could be
keeping in mind that frontage might be left fenced off while they construct their frontage, but all the other work could be done in advance of Lot 10 completing their work.
Okay, and so I mean we could be looking at 6 months. You could be looking at probably not a year, but
I like to think spring 27 we'd be done.
Be done.
I like to think that, but it's going to be contingent upon how far along and how quickly we can get.
Yeah, I saw your face, Mr. Mayor. I agree. I mean, I'm not asking for a deadline that then my question here is only really for one thing, which is that multiple folks have mentioned this about activation of the Streatery space, programs, things that go out there. It has been something that I have been hoping. As we wait for groundbreaking, which could be 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, is there anything that we can do to allowing food trucks into there on a short-term basis? Putting in temporary seating, something that would allow some kind of activation, even as a pilot for what could be activated there in the future. That's very different if you're talking, if it's 4 months from now, then it's probably not worth staff reviewing it. If it's a year and a half from now that we start breaking ground on that, then it might be worth us having those conversations. But as what you're saying right now is that it up in the air. It could be 6 months, could be a year, could be any amount of time.
AMJ is committed to, I think if recollection is correct, within the next 4 to 6 months, having enough information for us to be able to truly make a decision. So we're far enough along in our design, that we were ready to break ground December, January. So as soon as we have some specifics regarding those utilities, we can bring you the GMP back and we can get going.
All right, perfect. All right. Thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Thank you, Mr. Eastman. Commissioner Willetts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I won't support the motion, but I really just want to say I appreciate staff coming up with it. This is a festival type street. A lot of work has been done into it. I think it fixes problems that have been there for decades with drainage and ADA things, and gets us really kind of helps modernize our downtown as far as kind of the quality, but keeps a specific downtown feel. I'm a little surprised on the naming that the community kind of stuck with the Streatery. I was really hoping for something interesting and something original. I like something like Union Street something, but we already have Union Street Station, which kind of takes that up, takes that historical name because they've been so successful. So I'm fine with the Streatery. It hurts me a little bit. I wanted something more, original or historic to it, but I'm fine with that. So I won't support this motion. I do want to keep it with no regular vehicular traffic outside of, when the people are setting up for things and farmers markets and whatnot. I hope the 40 electrical receptacles are enough. But it's more than we got now. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Willetts. So let's go. Leave that up, if you will. And if this doesn't pass, then I hope somebody would keep most of this, because a lot of it is very workable. Commissioner Book.
I was going to wait for that.
Okay. All right. All right. I see no further lights other than that one. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
That fails 3-2 with Commissioners Chestnut and Book in the affirmative. Commissioner Book.
Yeah, I think the best way to activate is to make it as most flexible as possible, but I'm just thinking about a couple of different areas that we should consider. So the first thing, just a collateral issue I think we can deal with, that will probably be on the same page, is essentially a motion to direct staff to go to our three boards, the Downtown Advisory Board, the GCRA, and the Historic Preservation Board, to give us options of what to do with the bricks that allow us to link basically this future concept with the past. That's the motion I'm going to make, and I think that's just a very small issue, but going to be very important for some members of our community. And I don't think we have that unless you want to tell me different, Mr. Singleton.
So we do intend to use reuse the historic bricks and the tabletops of the raised intersections, with those bricks being beveled and rough compared to a modern brick. It should encourage slower speeds on those tabletops. So we do plan to incorporate those into that. Otherwise, we'll stockpile them and reuse them as needed for repairs on our other bricks and other locations.
It sounds like a good idea. My question is, have we gotten any feedback from any of those boards or the downtown business owners about that?
We discussed the bricks and the paving options in the public meeting and with the two boards. I want to say memory serves me correctly. I don't have access to it. Everyone, the boards and the public were supportive of, at the public workshop, were supportive of modern brick pavers.
Is there a time exigency for us to get that very small piece of a much bigger project? Or would we have time to go to those boards and now that we're going to finalize on something and get their feedback? Or would we not want to do that?
Here's the two boards' recommendations, modern bricks.
I understand that. I'm asking what the ideas would be to do with that particular component from those boards.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
What do we do with the bricks? What's the best way you got 3 overlapping boards that have significant expertise, kind of related to these issues, and I think this is one they've all asked to have greater input. This is one that they could have greater input, would not slow down the project, I don't think. And tell us, and that would probably be, we'd probably move someone in that direction unless it was cost prohibitive.
I feel we discussed the historic bricks with them, and the desire was not to use them on this particular corridor.
In any way, shape, or form? I'd be surprised if that was the case. And I'm in total favor of what it says here as it relates to the roadway and accessibility. I'm asking, is there any other good ideas, and get their feedback, because that's what they do.
He's looking for special purposes for these bricks.
They could be used as accents in areas in the corridor, but the more they're used, the less accessibility you're going to have.
Yeah, obviously I'm not explaining myself well in this particular case. We're not using them on the street, is what it looks like that's going to be the case. That's what I think is going to happen. Question is, what other ways can we use them in that area that are meaningful to our community? That's all I'm asking.
We were originally talking about incorporating them into the arch feature.
Right, but you've taken that out of the equation because it's cost prohibitive.
They could be reused sometime in the future for a different type of art installation, if there's space in the streetery to do so. Again, the more that you put in the area, the less active space you have for festivals, for people to walk and get around. I know it looks like a lot of space, but it's not a lot of space.
I understand. So then really, this is a very minor part of the bigger project that we're talking about, so I didn't want to get us too far afield of that. So the motion is going to be to have staff go to those 3 boards and provide information back through our staff about what might be ways we could use those bricks meaningfully in that area. That's all. That's the motion.
So second. All right, so I have a motion, a second. And my understanding is that is sort of a side project, not to keep this all from moving forward.
Right, in no way, shape, or form would this be designed to hold up the larger project as a component.
Okay, very good. All right, Commissioner Willets.
That's probably for a full motion, but it sounds like we have a small motion just to move forward with just that. Yeah, so I have a motion out of this.
Okay, well, all right. Okay. So was this toward that or, okay. All right, so let's go ahead and vote on this. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously with Commissioners Engel and Duncan Walker absent. Were you?
I was trying to make the motion to move this forward, but
Okay, Commissioner Willets, and then we'll get to Commissioner Eastman.
Commissioner Eastman can follow me up if this is not a complete motion. You see where we're going. I move the commission select option 1 for rules and usage framework. Select the name The Streetery. Continue with no regular vehicular traffic in the Streetery. And approve proposed furnishings and locations. I think that is everything we were kind of talking about today.
Commissioner Eastman, do you want to second that or?
Second.
Okay, all right.
It's almost word for word what I was going to do, except there was another request in there about there was 2 festival layouts. There was the original one that had limited space for sidewalk cafes and one that had expanded use. I was going to make a motion for the alternative festival layout, which had expanded use.
Yeah, I'll take that edit to it. So it would probably after, whether it's at the end, and select the alternative festival layout? Is that
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, and obviously you accept that. Any other comment on that?
One quick one.
Commissioner Book, yeah.
For the furnishings part of the motion, I just didn't understand that part. Commissioner Lewis.
That just, they provided, the original request was to provide feedback on furnishing options. And so what they showed us was they showed us roughly their plans for furnishings, if I remember right, but Mr. Singleton, correct me. So it just moving forward with what they've given us.
Yes, the alternate festival layout has furnishing at different locations. I just keep in mind the Lot 10 frontage is going to look different. Also, just wanted to point out, based on some of the feedback, all the furnishings that we selected, it might not show up in the pictures, but it's going to have armrests and things of that nature to prevent folks from laying down on what is constructed out there.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Any further comment would be and that is a large part of our issue. We have to be willing to, if there's a delay, be able to do something, whether it's furniture or something in there that makes it a space that people would like to be, because doing nothing keeps people from moving in that we want to move in and invites people to move in that we would rather not move in. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so that passes 3-2 with Commissioners Chestnut and Book in dissent, and Commissioners Engel and Walker absent. Commissioner Eastman.
Okay, so I guess I will make this motion that as it relates to activating the space and having staff explore some ways to activate the space, that move staff to explore short-term temporary ways to program and activate the Streatery space prior to construction, including placement of temporary seating and furnishings and use of food trucks and similar vendors to encourage public use and pilot activation ideas.
Is there a second?
I'll
So
wait
it's-
for somebody to second it because I have a question.
Second.
This is just to explore utilizing the space. I don't want to put any more work on staff than absolutely has to go, but I would like exploration of, if you guys remember when Lot 10 was there sitting vacant for the longest time, they just put out some benches and everything out there. When you open it up for food trucks every once in a while, I think would activate the space if someone wants to be there on a more on a temporary basis, but for a longer period of time, I think that would help, just improve it over the next, until we actually start construction.
All right, so, so you are not allowing cars on it, is that what you're saying? No cars, but just food trucks?
I think that having a food truck out there, currently food trucks can be there during event permits. So if you go out there at nighttime, a lot of times there's food trucks, but it has to be for specific event permits, things like that. I mean, currently our food truck, like if I were a food truck owner and I wanted to be there, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is that a possibility currently that's allowed?
Bring ideas back is the motion.
Yeah, it's just exploring.
I'm done.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Book.
Thank you, Commissioner Easton. Question is, we're kind of trying to think of other options and how we do things that make it safer, make more legitimate users. I had been, thinking when we were talking about downtown units and the police, again, there's a lot of moving parts here. So what the mayor said is right. No one piece should be holding up the entire project. But exploring, to me, when I hear exploring, researching, that's get feedback from the boards, right? Let's get feedback from staff. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, it wasn't as
It's open-ended.
as specific as that. It's just exploring. It's direction from this commission to our staff that this is something we would like for you to explore. If that's something that they can get done, great. If not, I wasn't expecting a GPC meeting or anything upcoming for it, or to send it to our.
I would agree with that. I would just always say we have some very, very active individuals downtown, and we can really get feedback that probably they would be, again, it'd be pretty important for us to get, including those boards, without holding up things. But it sounds to me like it includes any idea for that. That's enough for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. I see no further lights. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously with Commissioners Engel and Walker absent. Madam Clerk. Thank you
Good night,
all
Mr.
for
Mayor.
that. Okay, all right, Commissioner Book, yes.
One last one. What's you all's thoughts that it kind of dovetails this? We've had a lot of conversation related to how we provide public safety services. This can be technology. This can be surveillance. We've talked about cameras. This can be other surveillance and technology options. It does make people nervous. This could be, how does a downtown determine how they want to fund public safety? And that could be fire, related to crowd management techniques, and police. And I ask that question because that could lead to a motion of asking again for feedback. It does not put a great burden on staff, but it gets from the boards feedback on how would they research funding public safety. And public safety is broad. That's not just police. Because we need that as we expand. And we've already heard about issues that we don't need to delve into again here. So I asked that question before we move on to the next agenda item, because I would be willing to say, let's research that. Let's get the information back on potential ways to fund public safety broadly downtown, specifically from our boards. That's not just people, that's people and things.
Any other comments? I mean, yes, I would love for boards to bring back ideas to us. And they ought to be able to do that without specific direction from us. One of the directions is for them to bring good ideas back to us, generally speaking. And I would hope that they would do that. But
Okay. Well, the motion sounds like bring back good ideas, but really what it is to direct staff to research and provide information back on how to fund public safety specific to the broad-based downtown area. That is, that's everything. That is fire and police and technology and stuff and what ideas they have.
Okay.
That's the motion.
That's a second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any? I would say I want to be careful with some of our downtown board, our downtown advisory board, the GCRA board coming back to us with, you should go hire a grant writer. Well, we have grant writers, and I don't want to put them in a position where they're just throwing darts at the wall. I do want them to feel good coming back to us with ideas, but I'm not sure how we expect them as civilians who do not work in law enforcement or fire and safety to come back and or codes enforcement to come back and tell us how we fund that. I mean, if where you're going is a downtown organization that can help fund security, yeah, I think that's a fine idea. But I think we need to. I would feel a little more comfortable being specific. I can vote for this, but I would like to be more specific than ideas for funding public safety, because the idea for funding public safety is taxes. That's how that works.
That's yes, I agree. We do not need 40 options on a slide
Right.
that tells us what we do. I think that's where we rely on staff and their expertise to bring someone with knowledge and go, you could raise taxes by $2 millions of dollars, but we've already debated that. So that's really not the option there. There are other numerous ways that hospitality and entertainment districts fund that are very unique to specific areas and cities. Celebration Point actually funds different services via 1% on your bill, and most people don't know they pay it. Now, I'm not advocating that. I'm telling you that's a unique item where the people downtown have expertise, and I would think that the staff will help us. Mr. Mayor, I understand what you say.
Yes, okay.
We don't want 50 things on a dartboard. Right. We need realistic ideas that would help us, that the community would probably support, and then maybe we move forward on that. So I don't know how to specify that in a motion, but I think providing that context right here is probably what you're alluding to.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Book. Commissioner Chestnut.
Yeah, I was just going to say that all of voting for taxing ideas, supporting ideas, all of that emanates from the public. So we can never put a damper on what they want to propose. Yeah, you can't put a damper on it. You can consider it, but we appointed these boards to get feedback. And this particular board, two of them, I think we have a very good citizen input and experience. So I don't want them to feel hampered by what they propose. We don't have to accept it, but I do want their input. Thank you.
You're welcome. No other lights. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes 4-1 with Commissioner Willets in dissent and Commissioner Zingle and Duncan Walker absent. Anything else about Streatery today? All right, we still have 2 items ahead of us and a hard stop at 5. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, we're on to 2025-681 Northwest 5th Avenue, Pleasant Street Historic Heritage Trail Historical Markers, with the recommendation that the General Policy Committee approve the Northwest 5th Avenue, Pleasant Street Historic Heritage Trail Project, including the Rose Theater Garden component, authorize procurement of vendors to fabricate and install the historical markers, and the design and construct the Rose Theater Garden. Final contracts will return to the Commission for approval following vendor selection.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Commission. You stole my thunder. I was going to introduce that as well, but we are happy to bring forward to you the first stage of the approval process for the Heritage Trail Project. This will concern actually getting authorization to move forward on the things the clerk just mentioned. And then we would come back to you with a contract for both the fabrication and installation of the markers, as well as the design for the Rose Theater Garden. I do want to introduce the collaborative, the Community Planning Collaborative, who is our consultant of choice that was selected about 2 years ago. And they can take you through the presentation and the research they've done over the past 2 years. Is very extensive community engagement, not only with formal boards, but also with community public workshops. I'd like to introduce Ennis Davis and Adrian Burke with the firm.
Welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So thank you. My name is Ennis Davis, co-founder of Community Planning Collaborative. I'm going to briefly walk you through a presentation. I know you got a hard stop, so I'm going to move real quick. I do want to introduce Adrian Burke as well. My co-founder is here to support as well. So while we are the project managers for this trail project, we do have 2 consultants, sub-consultants helping us. A park planner, Perez Planning and Associates, as well as on the community engagement side, Carla Michelle Media. Perez Planning is out of Atlanta, Community Planning Collaborative, and Carla Michelle Media, we're both based out of Jacksonville, so right up the street. But those are some examples of some other cultural heritage trail projects that we've been involved with over the last recent couple of years. So our first phase of this project was to review all the work that previous consultants in the community had done on this Heritage Trail going back several years. We launched the project in January of last year, worked with a series of stakeholders as well as review documents. And I'm not going to go through all this, but briefly what came out of that was, and everything we talked about, let's prioritize getting this project done. We've been here before. Let's just get these physical markers done. So that was considered to be a big priority, but also a very important part was more of this being a community-led project moving forward. So we want to make sure that we work with subject matter experts that were descendants of the communities and the ancestors that develop this community to tell the story and lead the project. Some other recommendations that came forward was to also look at ways, I'm just going to take one bullet from this list here, but to also look at ways where we could maximize the funding and to make it more efficient. So one of the things we did look at here was taking advantage of existing ADA facilities that the community already invested in from an infrastructure project to try to align the heritage markers with those investments to eliminate the need to create to add extra costs on the infrastructure side. So then we jumped into the meat of the project about a year or so ago. And this really dealt with the Heritage Trail Plan itself. We first launched by looking at best practices from a cultural heritage perspective. with communities that are share very similar links in history and cultural dynamics to the Fifth Avenue Pleasant Street neighborhood. There are some best practices that come out of that. I won't go through all of them on this slide, but one thing is we have to keep in mind that a heritage marker project is only going to have about 175 words. So there's a lot of stories out there that we have to find ways to integrate, and not everything's going to end up on that physical sign. So this is really one component of a much larger process to honor the history and heritage of the community. Then we work with the community as well as Gainesville city staff and various departments to identify where we could actually place markers. We combine Gainesville's direction with national best practices in terms of location. So in the purple box here, you can see basically 4 general areas of where we're kind of limited to kind of work with best practices to locate potential markers. City of Gainesville parks, City of Gainesville owned properties, the Alachua County School Board, and Santa Fe College. How that transitions to a map, basically those sites that are located in identified in green or light blue are the areas that we begin to work with in terms of actual physical marker locations. This graphic here just shows where we've identified up to 21 potential sites for 21 markers. 4 of those being trailhead markers, 17 of those being what we call low profile markers. And I'll go in a little more detail about that in a minute. This just repeats what you just saw on the last slide, gives you an idea of what each of the different points of interest or topics are at the 21 markers. In working with the community, the recommended trail name is the Fifth and Pleasant Black Heritage Trail. And then every point of interest you see there's a theme around what that narrative will be about. And really that theme that's really expressed within the history of the community is just the leadership, legacy, and the community. Definitely want to dive into this, but this is as we hope to go into the next phase. This is just specifications in terms of where we're looking at in terms of types, font style of text, scale of text, the color style to be more consistent with the city's design standards. In addition, the shape, dimensions of the markers being considered are also taken from the city sign design standards for city parks. So our trailhead concept, we're looking at that pedestrian totem in terms of scale, dimension, and then the low profile marker concept is really what Gainesville describes as an interpretive marker. This just gives you a graphic idea of what that trailhead could look like in playing with imagery. One of the things that the community is real big on is making sure that this project stands out amongst Gainesville and amongst other communities. So we want to try to achieve that with the way we use graphics and color while staying within the city's design standards. This is concept here, just shows what a potential marker could look like using all the best practices from a graphic perspective, as well as dimension and font sizes for text and graphics. One of the big things I'll point out here is while we're here talking about a physical marker component today, again, limited around 175 words in terms of text, there is the ability to link this on the digital side to where stories, more images, and things of that nature can be displayed as a digital component of this project. And then each of these markers, we also want to make sure there is a map that people understand where they're at today, where they're at that site, and how to navigate to the other markers. This is just a quick rendering showing what a potential low profile marker could look like. And then this slide here just shows from an assembly and installation perspective how that marker is actually installed. One big thing we are recommending is that there's direct embedment in terms of placement of the structure. Then we also have some recommendations in terms of materials from a low-cost perspective in terms of maintenance or no-cost perspective in terms of maintenance. and really how you use colors based off our environment to make sure that these markers are going to last, 10, 15 to 20 years or so. So where we are in the process right now, we wrapped up this this planning phase, what we kind of call it, back in May. So the last few months, we've met with several boards, given a similar presentation to the boards and to solicit feedback. Our next steps moving forward is to look at coming up with design mock-ups for each of the individual markers, and we'll be working with communications staff on that as well as the community. And at the same time, hoping to bring in a fabricator to actually move forward with the fabrication and installation stage. And the goal here is to have this physical marker component of the project completed by Juneteenth of 2026.
Wow.
So last slide here is we are asking we hope for approval of the project, including the Rose Theater design concept, as well as authorization to move forward into the fabrication and installation phase. And based off of that, if we move forward in final contracts for the fabrication and installation phase, will be brought back to you for approval later this year. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. We've got at least one line. I'm sure we'll have some more. Commissioner Chestnut.
Well, I was just going to put a motion on the floor to get things rolling.
Okay.
Move staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm really happy how this turned out. This has been many, many years in the making. I remember I think this has been, going back to 2018 maybe even. I mean, no, not that. Even before that, yeah. Okay, I was trying to be on the conservative side. I mean, I remember I was talking about this. So this is great. One of the reasons I fell in love with Gainesville coming here when I was younger is getting the old Pleasant Street historic foundation brochures and walking around the neighborhood that I didn't know much about and learning about all the old houses that were there and the folks that lived there. And it's a really great neighborhood, and it's great to tell those stories. And I think what you guys have done here is neat, and I think it tells the whole story well. The one thing that I have that we have a long-term plan to build affordable housing. Can we go into the Rose Theater Garden concept was mentioned kind of obliquely here and is mentioned in the motion, but we didn't really, that to me is a change in planning, right? Can we talk about that before because that's the only part of this that I would like to have a little more conversation about, and it wasn't in the presentation.
It's my understanding that we did some engagements probably back during the pandemic, shortly thereafter, with the neighborhood about putting infill housing there. And the neighborhood was split on that idea. We did go to the Pleasant Street Neighborhood Association back in May. The approach I heard from them is they didn't want any infill housing there. We do have the opportunity to go out to further public engagement, solidify what the opinion is on the site before we actually go forward with the Rose Theater Garden to see what the neighborhood's temperature is.
What kind of garden are we talking about? Like, what is
it mainly would be sort of a contemplative garden that reflects on the civil rights past of that particular area, because just to the south and east is Mount Carmel Church, which was a kind of a centerpiece of the civil rights movement. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's we're talking about half an acre, right? Which is it's 0.4 acres.
Okay, right. It's a very deep lot, narrow, and it once had alley access, but that has since been kind of occupied by the adjoining property owners. Yeah. Which makes it more of a difficult prospect to put more than one unit on it. And that was kind of our motivation for maybe reimagining what happens there.
Right.
Is it better as a public site or a private site, which is quite large?
Right. But it's a budding the Santa Fe owned those commercial properties.
Right. Right.
Okay, sorry not to derail it from the whole purpose of this, but since it was in there and you're requesting it there, yeah, I just I wanted to have some conversation about it. I think it's easy to set up a community gardens are always like one of the easier things to say. Oh well, we would rather have this here than that here, or something else.
We're
there,
not thinking of it as that kind of community garden where it's a productive vegetable growing garden, but more of a a passive. But there, like I said, there's opportunities for us probably over the next 3 months or so to further solidify what the opinion of the neighborhood is as we go out for the contract for the two vendors.
Right, because you could, I mean, this is basically turning it into a public park, right? We are choosing that the public park is going to be a garden, but there will be, operational costs associated with that. Someone's going to have to maintain.
Well, we've been maintaining that site since GCRA became a GCRA.
Right, but so you guys have operation, the site right now is 4 or 5
Right, we're
trees
mowing
and
it
right.
and cleaning it as need be.
Right, but I guess it would be transferred to parks at that point, or it would be transferred to someone?
At some point, depending on the, what our future organizational status is, we could maintain it if we have an extension or our department remains operational through the 2029 termination.
Okay.
It could remain under our control.
Okay. Yeah, I just I think I am happy to move forward with all the motion about authorizing the procurement for vendors and fabricating and installing the historic markers. I would like to have a little more of a conversation. I mean, that's a large parcel right near our downtown, and what it is that we would like to do with that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Book.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an easy one. Thank you very much for the presentation. I attended one of the charrettes that was at, I think it was at Blunt Hall, and it was terrific and it was engaging and there was a lot of feedback, and then you broke everybody into work groups to come up with some of all these things that I know have led you to these slides. So it was really good. I particularly like the fact that it was at Santa Fe College and that you have them engaged in it. The train station itself, the building that you did not meet in, is itself historic. So that may offer you some other options down the road. But thanks for the work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. Commissioner Willets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm so pleasantly surprised about how you can manage to fit in potentially 21 markers with the very strong restrictions on where they can be, right? And it also is a reminder that we're lucky to have some public land that's owned in all of these little places, so that we could potentially do this. Do we need, somewhere in here, there was a question about a name, giving it recommended trail names. And right now this is just a motion, but did we need a name now, or is that a name later to finalize?
From the community's perspective, it's Fifth and Pleasant Black Heritage Trail, but we're not asking any recommendations at this point.
Okay.
That's something that can be refined if need be. But
because our motion only just says Northwest Fifth Ave, Pleasant Street Historic Heritage Trail, and I'm fine with the Fifth and Pleasant Black Heritage Trail. That's my preference. So it sounds like we're not voting on it yet. I had similar concerns about the Rose Theater Garden, just because there had been potential plans of something different in there. We own that site, but there's a lot of other parcels that potentially could be infill housing in the neighborhood. Maybe it's that someday we may need to buy a different parcel if we have plans, but that's a little further down the road. But it is, like I said, I'm just very impressed by the potential to get 21 markers in with such strong limitations. So thank you for the work on this, to staff, also to Mr. Davis and Ms. Burke. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Willis. Commissioner Chestnut.
Yeah, I want to say that Dr. Edwards is here from the neighborhood. I hope she will come forward and speak to the Rose Garden issue.
Sure, come on up. Thanks for sticking with us all afternoon.
My name is Carolyn Edwards, and I live and have lived in the Pleasant Street area. My family's been there since 1861, and I'm particularly interested in its history. I do want to say, Mayor, that this project and different iterations of it have been going on for probably 20 years or more. So That's more than the 5 years for the Streetery. So I do encourage you to get this one done. And I'm totally in support of the project because they talked to the community. That was one thing. There were many meetings and so forth. And I know the time is short, but I want to talk about the Rose Theater issue. I remember going to the Rose Theater, as a child and a young person. And we have had several meetings, community meetings, where it may have been divided, but the strongest voice has always been, we don't need more apartment buildings. There was a proposal for a 10-unit complex in that area that totally is out of character with the neighborhood. And we would rather see it as it is with the oak trees and, a few benches or whatever than to have dense housing in that area. At most, in the future, you could look at maybe one house in that area, but I think the housing situation in that area is not as dire as it has been. There are a lot of vacant areas along with houses for sale, and those of us, and I say us, I'm a member of the Pleasant Street Neighborhood Association, the Pleasant Street Historical Society, the Fifth Avenue Neighborhood Association, and I've walked and talked to people as well as the public meetings, and I think that the housing was something that was really strongly opposed, certainly as the types of housing that were proposed, because the issue with low-income housing is that what you end up doing is having apartments and having people congested into a smaller space. So if anything, we would like to see, one house, maybe two, but certainly not the kind that have been proposed. And as for the reflection, Mount Carmel is there. I used to go there to meetings, before we had sit-ins and such, and so it is historic in that sense. Mount Pleasant, which is not too far down the street, has been used for that. So we just strongly think that the housing is not the best option for that space, and that maybe something reflective of the Rose Theater and, maybe a little mini museum or something like that would be more appropriate.
Very good. Thank you.
That was our last speaker, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. And no other public comment? Okay. All right, Commissioner Eastman, did you?
Yeah, I mean, I would still, I understand, I didn't realize there was 10 units that was being proposed there in the past. I really wish that we had a chance to, that it was listed in the presentation. I think it was so that we had a chance to kind of hear more about what was recommended there. I'd be fine with, home ownership, like a community land trust going in there, even with, a usable space that in some capacity. But I like the whole Heritage Trail. I'm really happy that we're moving forward with it. I'm glad we have multiple years on it. I don't know if I feel comfortable with such a change in direction with a project that has been in the works. Like we've talked about what to do with that particular parcel, but as a whole, I think the Heritage Trails are really great. Like everything that has happened here has been really tremendous. I think it's really.
We will be sure to, bring back some further opinions from the neighborhood when we go to the next stage of this approval process, which would involve doing a site plan for the Rose Theater.
But this is moving forward with making a garden in that space.
Well,
right?
we intend to actually do the community engagement on what that garden would look like. So that's an opportunity to get input on the housing design, if any.
But we're not. But the motion here is not to do housing; it is to do a community garden, right? That's correct.
Right. It's pushing us. You still have a threshold that you can basically say no to the garden, which would be a few months from now when we bring a contract back to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rick.
Certainly.
Commissioner Chester.
Yeah, I think we have to be very careful about listening to the community when they come forward. They have spoken, they don't want housing there, period. What they would like to see is a rose garden that commemorates the civil rights movement. Dr. Cosby, her father, and all of what they did in trying to bring this neighborhood forward. They do not want housing there. I don't think we should impose it on them.
Thank you, Commissioner
Thank
Chestnut. Any other comments? I am thrilled to have this at this point, and again, this was in discussion long before I came to work in this building, and that's been a good little while. So I'm very excited to see this move forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing the markers go up. Very excited when you said you think you'd be done by Juneteenth of the coming year. That's exciting. I mean, that almost too much to believe, given that we're going to hold you to it. But given the length of time that this has been a discussion, it would be very exciting to have that done by early next summer. So, I see no further lights. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passed unanimously with Commissioners Duncan Walker and Engel absent. Thank you very much for that. And Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor,
Two
we're
more
on.
items.
Yep.
20
2025-676 revised rules of the City Plan Board, Development Review Board, and Historic Preservation Board with the recommendation the General Policy Committee approve the revised rules of the City Plan Board, the Development Review Board, and the Historic Preservation Board, and direct staff to record attendance records anew for all board members as of today's date.
Mr. Mayor, my office put this item on the agenda just for ease of reference for all of you. Recently, you've become aware of some confusion with some board members regarding the attendance requirements. Their rules having been a little different than what our ordinance requires. The ordinance was changed back a few years ago, and the ordinance also requires that the rules of these boards be consistent with those attendance requirements. So in order to just sort of clear up the confusion and let us start anew, we've prepared amendments to those three boards, rules of procedure, the Plan Board, the Development Review Board, Historic Preservation Board, just as to the attendance to make it consistent with your ordinance, and would suggest that you adopt those new rules with the new attendance consistent with your ordinance, and just sort of wipe the slate with the attendance and let them move forward with the groups that you all have seated, and then we can again communicate better and make sure we have attendance is tracked in an effective way going forward in the way that's been directed by the ordinance.
Okay.
We just lost our quorum.
Yes, but he'll be back, and so we'll bluff until then. Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Eastman.
Yeah, I'll just start filibustering here.
Yeah.
I'll start. If anyone has a dictionary or so in the rules here, we still have the same attendance requirements, right? Like you have to have an excused absence for X amount of reasons.
The attendance requirements are now consistent with Chapter 2 of the ordinance. I think it's Section 247, and I can pull up the amended ones that are in the backup to tell you exactly what that is. But yeah, I think you can miss 2 in a 6-month period, something along those lines. And there's the avenue for at least one excused absence. And even if someone, in the event that you have language in your ordinance still, and it would be in the rules now, that upon someone missing excessive meetings, that they are automatically removed. But bear in mind, that does not prevent them from then just reapplying. And there may very well be a good reason why they had a short time where they had difficulties with attendance, but that you may wish to, they may wish to reapply, and you may wish to, as a board, to reappoint them. It gives, I think, a sense of urgency to attendance, because it's important that we maintain quorums on these boards.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is important. I think that's something that that it got brought up, the attendance requirements in the last meeting, but it's also important to remember that our city plan board is reviewing quasi-judicial rezonings. If you get delayed because you can't reach quorum, I mean, that could have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of impact on some of these. So, I mean, joining these boards, particularly the boards that we have here, like the Historic Preservation Board, the Development Review Board, well, these are all critically important boards that hold up long-term projects if we do not have quorum on them. And so I think it's important to balance out, giving people flexibility while at the same time, I mean, making sure that the city is not holding up people erroneously. If you're signing up for one of these boards, you need to make sure that you can make it. I think we have, I mean, it says you have a somewhat amount of excused reasons to not be there. I think 2 successive ones. This seems reasonable to me. One, seems reasonable to me. It's restrictive, but it needs to be restrictive because we got the business of the city needs to move on. This is all much larger than us. So I think I filibustered till I got quorum back. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eastman. Commissioner Willets.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just real quick, Mr. Attorney, the 3 documents I see have August 21st listed. So each of these documents just needs to strike 21st and say 28th as effective. Okay. If that's what, because this is to approve these revised rules. So I think we just need to, with that edit on each of them, effective, approved by the City Commission and effective on August 28th.
If the board so approves, we'll make sure that the correct date is reflected.
Yeah, I think that will be so. I move we approve the revised rules with the Scrivener's error, I guess, of making August 21st read August 28th on each of the rules for the City Plan Board, Development Review Board, and Historic Preservation Board, and direct staff to record attendance records anew for all board members as of today's date, August 28th.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Commissioner Book.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I missed a couple minutes. Mr. Attorney, I was familiar with the backup, and I didn't know if the question was asked, but I might have missed it. So, Madam Clerk, you've been heavily involved in this and are comfortable with these revised also.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Book. Is there any public comment?
No public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I will say that it's incumbent on us as the commission to impress upon members of all our boards, but particularly these quasi-judicial boards that do have an impact on economic development in our city and on people's ability to live in our city, that we expect them to be there, that this is not an honorary position when they're named to these boards, that they've asked to be a part of these boards that are part of the business of our community, and that we really need them to engage and to be a part of that. And we haven't done that consistently. I'm certainly guilty of not saying, this is important. Make sure that you engage and that you don't just treat it as another volunteer board, but that it is really a very significant thing that you're doing for the community. So I will make a point to doing more of that, and I would ask you all to do that as well. And to engage with all our boards more so that they feel like they need to be there. Like, it's easy, you miss a meeting, it's easy to miss the next meeting, and before you know it, you're getting an email from city clerk, and you don't want to do that. So, all right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passed unanimously with Commissioners Engvall, Duckenwalker, and Chestnut absent. And Madam Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, do you like to revisit the agenda review?
Yes, please.
So under your agendas, you should see the draft agendas for the upcoming meetings. Would you like to start with GPC or the?
No, let's do the regular meeting first.
The regular meeting. So this is for Thursday, September 4th. Starting, the invocation will be by Dr. Marie Herring. We have the consent agenda, approval of minutes item, state-funded HM3B grant award, informational item, upcoming city events list, age-based fare-free service agreement with the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners. Then in the morning business discussion item is interim city manager, Gainesville Fire Rescue quarterly update.
Let me interrupt you just briefly there, Madam Clerk. The reason that we moved this to the interim city manager item to the top of the agenda for the next meeting is because we knew that at least one member would not be with us today. I think it's important that we give everybody the opportunity to be here for that discussion. I think that's awfully important. So,
yes, Mr. Mayor. Next is the presentation by Wild Spaces in Public Places on the Thelma A. Bolton Center project, and community meetings with notice text change LD 230000160.
So I'm going to ask that we move both 3 and 4 from the morning until into the afternoon, because otherwise that's a whole lot between interim city manager, the fire rescue quarterly update, and those 2 items. That is more than 2 hours work, I'll promise you.
Yes. In the afternoon, we have the Gainesville History Moment by Miss Donna Waller. And then we'll have those 2 discussion items. Then for ordinances for second reading, we have Land Development Code Amendment, Libraries and Daycares, and SF zoning. In the evening, we have our proclamation, City of Gainesville awarded gold LEED for city certification. And that concludes the commission agenda.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Buck.
Yeah, I had one thought, Mr. Mayor. We probably owe it to the county commission to talk about one of our agenda items, which is MV transport. To speak about that at some point, and it's got to be sooner rather than later. I'm not sure if that's a September 4th or September 11th agenda item, but I would defer it to if the manager had some thoughts about when or how to take it up.
We had a conversation with MV, at least Mr. Persons did yesterday. It's the first time that they've actually requested a meeting with the manager's office with all that has been going on with the delivery of that service over the last, 4 or 5 months. And so the budget has been pretty much set and recommended to the commission with that service being provided internally, utilizing our own internal staff at the transportation department. I know that the county commission, I believe they met on Tuesday. They had a discussion about it as well. I believe a letter was sent to the mayor just recently. I had a conversation with Michelle Lieberman, the county manager, letting her know where we were in our discussion as a city and that it could come back to the commission for further discussion. If it does come back, it would require us to further adjust the general fund budget. And so I'm not quite sure where the commission wants to take it. But for now, staff's recommendation is that the service be delivered internally, utilizing the staff from the transportation department.
Yeah, it's a difficult question. I don't want to basically be in a budget discussion on September 11th or September 18th or 25th. That's where, on the other hand, I do have some concerns about the MV transport, and it's such a critical service that has to be done at an absolute, 100% level. So I don't know. I'm really asking you as my colleagues, what do you think about that? Should we agenda item it, one of these 2, or?
So, Commissioner Buck, if I might just briefly address that, I have, number one, complete faith that RTS can meet the needs. I will tell you that I have been taken aback by the manner in which MV Transport approached this with us, and I continue to have concerns about that. Again, I believe that we can provide the service, and I also believe we are not responsible for meeting a need that the county has. I've said this a lot recently, but we have picked up the slack for other institutions locally for a long time, and we just can't afford to keep picking up the slack for everybody else again. And just personally, I will tell you, I prioritize it. If it comes down to supporting a business that we have done business with, and keeping them afloat or keeping our own people, I'd rather keep our own people. And that really is the question before us. Now, that's not on our agenda today, but I wish that folks had asked about all this, months ago, knowing very well when our budgetary season is. But anyway, Commissioner Will say.
Yeah, Commissioner Burke, is your concern mostly that we communicate with county because of potential changes? Like in the end, we're in the county's there. Is it about our relationship with the county because of other services that MV currently provides out in the county that we will no longer be, in essence, kind of subsidized, or in essence, supporting MV, so they go do that. Is it just about the relationship with the county, or are you talking about let's potentially change? Because if it's just a conversation with the county about the kind of the long-term transportation of everything, that because MV's contract has lots of, not with us, but with other funding streams. So is it just part of a larger conversation about all of this and all the coordination of ADA and transportation disabled and fosters and grandparents, or like, are you talking about our budget, or are you talking about the larger, the larger system? So
That's a good question. I'm not worried about our relationship with the county commission. I'm not. I think we're in a very good place with that. And occasionally they're going to have an issue that's going to impact some of their residents that won't impact our residents. This happens to be one that overlaps. I have complete faith in the staff also to execute, but I've also talked to staff, and this is a very complex service delivery system. It is. And we do things in the city that also impact positively the greater community at large. Houseless services are a great example of that. So we're in constant collaboration with the county and city for all the things we're doing. And I worry that even the actions we have to take to deal with our specific budget and our specific service delivery will have greater potentially negative impact to the greater community at large, which is also part of our community. So it's a rather vague concept, but I'm worried about it. And even our staff have said this is a complex delivery system. Mr. Persons, I see you standing there, so I welcome you to weigh in.
So let me mention also that the letter that they sent, which I will get out to y'all, says that they would like to talk about it in October at the MTPO meeting.
In the MTPO.
Yeah. So, all right, Mr. Persons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really have a whole lot to add to the discussion. I think Commissioner Willits kind of laid it out in terms of like where the kind of interests are. I think from the county's perspective, they're concerned about the TD portion and some of the other programs that MV runs that are outside of the cities. We have no contract with that. From the city's budget perspective, it's always going to be a budget discussion because it's both the people that we would need to let go to deal with the budget, and then the increase in the projection from MV. So there's always a budget aspect. So the commission, in a scenario where the commission said, okay, we're gonna not in-house paratransit, and we're gonna just extend or keep with MV, we would need to have a budget discussion about where that additional funding is going to come from to cover the increase in the MV contract, as well as laying off those employees, both filled and vacant positions, in order to account for the loss of revenue coming from UF. So that's what that conversation would look like. I think there's a separate conversation that's been alluded to relative to the maybe at the MTPO level, where it's related to the CTC function that MV is providing, and then if when the city in-houses paratransit, what will MV do in terms of delivering that TD service? Will they likely pull out, and then what those decision points will be? But those are irrespective of the city's budget. We are where we are, and I know you all know exactly how we got here. So.
All right, thank you. Well, there is nervousness and anxiety from certainly some of our vulnerable people and those that use that service, and change is something that would cause some concern and anxiety. And so if we end up being that service delivery system internal, it's not a concern for me with the staff delivering it. It's that we've got to be up and running on day one, and we have to do it at a really good level because it impacts people who are really impacted.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. The only other thing I was going to add was to Commissioner Book's point. We there will be a transition period. Obviously a change for both riders and for the organization. But I am confident that we are taking steps to make sure that it's as seamless as possible for those riders. and that there's not a dip in service as a result of this. There will be some adjustment period just as the new service and a new provider, but we absolutely are keeping that in mind, that these are the most vulnerable of our riders.
All right, well, it sounds like we are going to be discussing it at the MTPO. Right. And this is not a motion, this is just a recommendation, Madam Mayor, that you do take the meeting with them. So I hope you'll do that. And potentially on the...
We actually had that yesterday. We had the meeting with them yesterday.
Oh, that's it. That's good. That is the meeting.
We had a meeting with them yesterday. They requested it, but it's the first meeting that they have requested.
I understand. And you know, as should we get closer and we have the MTPO, we're just going to have to be very proactive about reaching out to those who use those services to make sure, to give them the comfort that when it's our time, we're going to be providing them those services and put them at ease. I think that would be important from my standpoint.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Book. Anything else on?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I was made aware, just to make mention, that there is a Finance Committee meeting on September 2nd. Most of those items will roll over to the commission agenda on consent. However, there is the 5th budget amendment that will need to go as a resolution on the agenda. Do you have a particular place?
Evening.
Evening. Okay.
Have also the September 10th special right for this. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any with our...
That's the first budget hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And then also, Mr. Mayor, these 3 items need to go on contract for speed detection camera enforcement system for school zones, Black on Black Crime Task Force and the City of Gainesville Agreement, and International City County Management Association Economic Mobility and Opportunity Special Assistance Program sub-award agreement.
Are those?
Most consent.
Consent, okay. All right. And I won't be surprised if somebody wants to take the cameras off. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and plan for that in
Did you have something?
Afternoon. Yeah.
Oh,
Just as an aside, I'm not sure that the speed contract can be on consent. That might be required to be open for comment, but I'll double check that. We can coordinate.
Just put that in the evening. Put it in the evening. It will come off consent. There's no way that stays on consent.
okay.
So,
We'll have that in the evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So let's do the 11th.
All right, on the 11th, currently we have 2 items from Commissioner Eastman to consider for discussion: commercial corridor fence reform and legalized skateboarding in public parks. I don't know if the manager's office has something
I would
coming on.
guess there will be more things that end up on that agenda.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, and that concludes the agendas.
And you'll get agendas out for us for the 2 budget meetings.
Yes.
Prior to that as well.
Absolutely, yes.
Very good. All right, you got still member comment in front of us, right?
Yes, we are currently on member comment.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Commissioner Willets.
Mayor, just real quick, school has started. Students at UF are starting to give feedback about current RTS services that serve campus, particularly on Reddit. They are showing pictures of crowded buses, talking about buses they've missed because there's 1 full, 2 full, Route 20, some of the, I don't know if it's 33 or 38, I forget which one else, one of the other ones they're mentioning. So just, it's out there, and so we will see how it goes. I'm sure RTS is making, small changes here and there. But it has been a busy week or so on campus, and outside of, and from what I'm gathering is, the freshmen who think it's crazy are being told by the upperclassmen, no, this is actually kind of crazy. This isn't just first week kind of stuff. So we're starting to get some feedback. We'll see how the rest of the semester goes. But I'm sure that RTS is hearing some feedback and UF is, but I'm keeping my ear to the ground about those changes. And so I've seen some of them because I ride one of the buses, but my bus isn't. Well, actually, my bus 13, the busiest. I had to think a date on whether it's the busiest stop for people getting on inbound, but it used to be right by a CVS. There was shade in the morning. There's literally a structure, one of our larger structures, and now they're on the 16th in the sun, jaywalking across the street to get there on Southwest 16th sometimes. It's not an ideal location. If this long-term stands, we would need to talking with Hotel Elio or Elio to figure out whether we can put a bus, a canopy there of some sort. So anyways, I offer that as just some things going on in the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Willits. We should make sure that one way or another, some of those comments, all of those comments make their way to Tigard Hall, and not just here. I want to thank staff for kind of lots of staff for sort of at the last minute, particularly to the city manager's office, putting together some tremendous hospitality for the mayor of Athens, Georgia, and the chamber visitors from Athens who are here in town this week visiting a variety of things. I was able to make some comments for them at the Thomas Center because staff did a great job of setting up a great space to be able to have that back and forth with Mayor Gertz from Athens. And one of the things that I learned from them yesterday is that that's related to what we were just talking about is the second busiest transit system in the state of Georgia, behind MARTA in Atlanta, is the University of Georgia's on-campus transit system, because Athens does not have a unified system as we currently do, and as it seems UF is kind of leaning toward not having. But our system works really, really well, and I hope that we can find a way to get back to working the best that it possibly can. But anyway, I just want to take this opportunity to thank city manager staff for helping put that together yesterday. It was a really, really wonderful event.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that was John Alexander, his staff, and of course Jennifer and her staff from communications, and of course the beautiful venue over at the Thomas Center, Spanish Courts, Park, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. They did a great job.
We have tremendous assets, people assets here in the city, as well as physical assets and things like the Thomas Center. Most cities don't have something as wonderful as the Thomas Center, the historic Thomas Center, to roll out on the spur of the moment for something like that, because I'll promise you those folks from Athens are still talking about how awesome that was. So, very good. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.